Chapter 2102. Peng Chenghua took a step back and sighed. Miss Qin, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't waste your effort. Just send him to reincarnate. He's in great pain and his injuries are worsening. There's no saving him. Qin Mengyun did not say anything. She gently helped Chu Li up and wanted to put him down. Chu Li said softly, "Thank you, Miss Qin. It's useless. Let me die on my own." What he wanted the most now was for the two of them to leave so that he could die on his own. Then, he could use the life and death scripture to come back to life and recover. Unfortunately, it was difficult to fulfill this wish. Judging from Qin Mengyun's gaze, it was clear that she would not give up until she achieved her goal. There was no point in saying anything more. He could only obey and slowly move his body out of the tree. Humph! Chu Li let out a grunt and finally left the tree. He struggled to stand up straight. His forehead was covered in cold sweat and his golden complexion had a tinge of green. It was getting worse. He won't last more than 2 hours, Peng Chenghua said. Chu Li nodded. Young Master Peng is right. Let me go and let me leave in peace. He wanted to kill Peng Chenghua. If it were not for Qin Mengyun, Peng Chenghua would have cut off his arms or even his limbs. He would not be able to escape the torture. Such a vicious person should not be left alive. He should be killed when he had the chance. But at this moment, he was calm and collected. It was as if nothing had happened, as if nothing had happened. No, I must save you. Qin Mengyun held his arm and felt him trembling. It was obvious that he was in great pain and did not want others to see it. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Miss Qin, we don't know each other. There's no need to do this, right? I believe in my instincts. I must save you, Qin Mengyun said. Young Master Peng, you should leave first. You're delaying me from saving you. Miss Qin, are you afraid that I'll harm you? Peng Chenghua shook his head and laughed. If I really wanted to harm you, I wouldn't have waited until now. Young Master Peng, please. Qin Mengyun said. Peng Chenghua looked at her and then at Chu Li. He nodded. All right then. I wish that your wish will come true. Saving this person's life will be a good deed. He then glided away and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Chu Li sighed. Miss Qin, if you really want to save me, you should bring me back to the dancing butterfly sect. Why? Qin Mengyun asked. Chu Li said, that young Master Peng is not a magnanimous person. He will definitely think of a way to get rid of me. Only by going to your sect can I be at ease to save people, or else I will be disturbed by young Master Peng at any time. But your body... Qin Mengyun hesitated. She could use void diversion to return to the sect, but Chu Li's body could not withstand void diversion at all. He would die without a doubt, so the best way was to save him here. But what he said wasn't wrong. With Peng Chenghua's temperament, he would definitely find a way to interfere with him saving people. It would be impossible to save people successfully. Chu Li said, Don't worry, there's a force in my body that's hurting me, but this inner energy is extremely overbearing and won't allow any other force to enter my body. So, even if I use void diversion, I can still withstand it. But, Qin Mengyun hesitated. Chu Li said, Life and death are fated. If that's what I have to do, I'll accept it. Sigh. All right. Qin Mengyun nodded in the end. She could only choose between the two. In the end, she felt that what Chu Li said made sense, so she decided to take a gamble and put herself on the line. She helped Chu Li up and said softly, Let's go then. Chu Li nodded lightly. Qin Mengyun suddenly flashed, and her shadow gradually dimmed. Chu Li's body dimmed as well, and then he disappeared without a trace. Chu Li violently spat out a mouthful of blood, and his body went limp as he fell onto Qin Mengyun's fragrant and soft body. Fortunately, Qin Mengyun was prepared and quickly held him up. Are you okay? Blood gushed out of Chu Li's mouth, and then his appearance changed. He looked like Wu Yuanxi. He struggled to sit on a rock and looked up at the towering mountain opposite him. Indeed, it was the front gate of the Dancing Butterfly sect, but they had not entered the Dancing Butterfly sect yet. They were just outside. Qin Mengyun gently put him down and sighed. "We're home. Why don't we treat our wounds here?" Chu Li said, "It's not a big deal." "All right." Qin Mengyun nodded lightly. She held him up with one hand and lifted his feet off the ground to maintain his balance so that he would not suffer from the jolting. Her light body technique was amazing, and she silently passed through the formation. Then, she brought Chu Li into the Dancing Butterfly sect, and then her feet fluttered as if they were riding the wind. "Junior Sister Qin, who is this?" When a fellow disciple met them, he curiously asked while sizing Chu Li up. "He's a friend of mine. Don't ask for now, we'll talk about it later," Qin Mengyun replied without stopping, and she looked anxious. They could tell that Chu Li's expression was not good, so they stopped bothering him. Instead, they curiously stared at their backs and then began to discuss. Junior Sister Qin actually brought a man back. How rare. The young lady has grown up. They're just friends. I don't think they're in a romantic relationship. That might not be the case. Although Chu Li's body was heavily injured and his condition was deteriorating, his spirit was still strong. He activated the omniscient mirror and began to observe the entire Dancing Butterfly sect. Almost all the people in the Dancing Butterfly sect were women, and all of them were lithe and graceful as if they were dancing. A faint fragrance floated in the air, as if it was a country of fragrances. Chu Li stopped using the omniscient mirror and stopped exhausting his spirit. The treatment later would really exhaust his spirit, so he could not afford to be careless. Ah! Qin Mengyun brought him over the wall of a courtyard and landed in the courtyard. When she helped Chu Li to sit by the stone table, she suddenly screamed and almost let go. Chu Li looked at her and knew that she had finally realized that his appearance had changed. She was really careless to only notice it now. Qin Mengyun gently put Chu Li down and said in surprise, "Wu Yuanxi?" Chu Li said, "Miss Qin, we meet again. I'll repay you for saving my life in the future." "Don't be so polite." Qin Mengyun rolled her eyes at him. "Why is it you?" Chu Li sighed. "If it wasn't for you, Miss Qin, I would have died." "That's because you're lucky," Qin Mengyun said. "I also sensed an extremely powerful force as if a treasure was born, so I came to have a look and saw you." Chu Li said, "The 4 elders of the Profound Heart sect used the heavenly demonic disintegration secret skill, so there's almost no hope for me with this injury. Everyone has to leave, sooner or later. It's time for me to leave too." "What nonsense are you talking about? I have a way." Qin Mengyun rolled her eyes at him. "You're really brave. You fought against 4 Profound Heart sect elders on your own. You're really—" She shook her head as she spoke. She felt that Chu Li was courting death. Chu Li said, "The Dancing Butterfly sect doesn't have any secret healing skills, right?" The Dancing Butterfly sect was famous for the heavenly demonic dance and the heavenly demonic song, which could make people fall head over heels for them. However, she had never heard of any secret healing skills. "I'll try," Qin Mengyun said. She sat behind Chu Li and gently pressed her palms on his back. Instantly, 2 warm forces entered Chu Li's body and began to enter his organs. Chapter 2103. As soon as her aura entered her internal organs, an invisible force suddenly surged out, like a gust of wind sweeping through leaves. In the blink of an eye, her aura disappeared without a trace, as if it had never been there. Qin Mengyun clearly sensed the unusualness, so she sent out another strand of even purer aura, yet it was still swept away and vanished. She gently released her palm and stared at Chu Li with a frown. Chu Li sighed. "Forget it, don't waste your effort." "Who said it's a waste of effort?" Qin Mengyun rolled her eyes at him, stood up, and paced with her hands behind her back. She had long since removed the white veil covering her face. As she walked, she would occasionally raise her head to look at the sky or bite her fingernails. Her eyebrows were sometimes tightly knitted and sometimes relaxed. Her jade-like face was sometimes smiling and sometimes tense. Chu Li, on the other hand, was wondering if he should perform the life and death scripture, but he was not in a hurry. Even if he were to die from severe injuries, it would not be too late for him to perform the life and death scripture. As long as his body was not damaged, he could be resurrected. Other than the life and death scripture, he also had the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture, which could guarantee his resurrection. Therefore, he still had the leisure to look at Qin Mingyun's changing expression. He could tell that Qin Mingyun was struggling internally. Chu Li was secretly surprised to see her like this. Could it be that Qin Mingyun really had a way to cure him? He had never heard of any secret healing techniques of the dancing butterfly sect. The most powerful ones were the demonic dance and the demonic song. The rest of their martial arts were very ordinary. Could it be that they were hiding a very powerful healing technique? These large sects usually had their own secret art. Outsiders did not know about them, so it was not surprising that the dancing butterfly sect had their own secret art. After a while, Qin Mingyun turned to look at Chu Li with her bright eyes. Chu Li smiled at her. "Forget it, Miss Qin. I'll do it myself." "Can you cure it?" Qin Mingyun asked. Chu Li said, "I'm going into isolated cultivation. Don't disturb me for the next 10 days. His injuries can be healed in 10 days? Qin Mingyun snorted. She faintly felt that something was wrong. With this kind of injury, it was impossible for him to last more than 10 days. He said 10 days, but it was very likely that he wanted to pass away quietly and did not want to be a burden to her. Thinking of this, she became determined and said, "I do have a secret healing technique, but you have to keep it a secret. You can't let a third person know about it." Chu Li asked, "What kind of secret skill would require such secrecy?" Qin Mingyun said, "Of course it's an extremely powerful secret technique." "What's the price?" Chu Li asked. However, extremely powerful secret techniques usually required a sufficient price, and there was no such thing as a free lunch. Qin Mingyun frowned. "I need a year of cultivation." Chu Li shook his head lightly. "Then I owe him a big favor." "It's good that you know." Qin Mingyun humphed. "Then let's begin." Chu Li nodded slowly and did not reject the offer. For young martial arts masters, 1 year of cultivation was very important. The growth of cultivation was similar to growth and development. Usually, it would stop growing rapidly after a certain point. The younger one was, the lower the chances of a bottleneck appearing. As one grew older, the chances of a bottleneck appearing increased. A year of cultivation was nothing for older people, because later on, they would have to rely on accumulation. Once they reached a bottleneck in their cultivation, they would need years of accumulation to break through the bottleneck and advance to the next level. If he couldn't break through the bottleneck, there wouldn't be much difference even if he was 100 years old and 30 years old. The existence of a bottleneck depended on one's talent and cultivation level when one was young. After one was 100 years old, it would be very difficult to improve one's cultivation level. Cultivation was accumulated step by step, and from there, a quantitative change would lead to a qualitative change. Therefore, if one didn't have any fortuitous encounters, one's cultivation level during one's youth would determine one's cultivation level for the rest of one's life. One should take advantage of their youth to cultivate diligently. Losing a year of cultivation would have a huge impact, so he owed Qin Mingyun a big favor. Qin Mingyun sat cross-legged behind him and pressed both palms on his back. A cool force drifted into his body, and it was as soft as fog. It bypassed that strange force and was not expelled. Everything was fine. Chu Li's internal organs were immediately nourished by this cool force, and he felt better. He could not help but feel energized as he hurriedly channeled his energy to merge with this refreshing force to speed up his recovery. Meanwhile, that strange force seemed to ignore Qin Mingyun's refreshing force and allowed it to heal Chu Li's internal organs. Chu Li felt that it was amazing. After his inner energy merged with this cool force, it instantly became stronger. As the cool force entered his body, his inner energy cultivation level kept increasing, and his meridians were also slowly expanding. His internal organs were also becoming stronger. At first, they were slowly recovering, but after they recovered, they started to become stronger. They were even stronger than before he was injured. Chuli suddenly understood why Qin Mengyun needed to keep this a secret. Her inner energy was like spiritual energy, but it was stronger than spiritual energy. It strengthened her cultivation level and strengthened her body. It was like the Enlightenment technique, but it was even more amazing than the Enlightenment technique. She could use less inner energy to increase more inner energy. It was really mysterious. After a while, Chuli said softly, "It's done." He felt that he could suppress that strange force and use the cloud-slashing power to slowly devour it. The force produced by the fourth elder of Mystery Heart Sex, self-destruction, was gradually defeated by Qin Mengyun's force. It was no longer a threat. Qin Mengyun gently let go of her palms, and her face was as pale as a sheet. Although Chuli did not turn around, he could see it clearly. He pretended not to know and continued channeling to heal his injuries. Soon, that strange force was expelled from his body. He realized that his cultivation level had increased, and his meridians had become thicker. This little change was very precious to him now. He had now reached the peak of his cultivation. He had many strange techniques, but it was difficult for him to improve further. Ever since he cultivated the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture to the peak, it was difficult to improve further. His cultivation level had also stagnated. Unless he obtained a more powerful heart technique, it would be extremely difficult for him to improve even a little. Now, this little bit of improvement was better than him cultivating for half a year or even a year. After a while, Chuli turned around. Qin Mengyun had returned to normal. Her face had regained its rosy color, but her eyes were still a little blurred. Chuli Fist saluted. "What secret skill is this?" Qin Mengyun shook her head. "I didn't expect you to have such a fortuitous encounter." "I had a fortuitous encounter." Chuli nodded. "I got it in the Grandmaster realm." Qin Mengyun said, "It's the cloud-slashing power, right?" Chuli looked at her in surprise. He did not expect to hear these 4 words from her. He thought that the cloud-slashing power was only passed down in the lower realm, and it was impossible for the Grandmaster realm to know about it, let alone the heavenly demonic realm. He was very surprised to hear it from her. Qin Mengyun said, "It really is the cloud-slashing power. You know about this?" Chuli was surprised. "Back then, I obtained the cloud-slashing tome and started cultivating it after discovering its wonders. However, I didn't know about the details of the cloud-slashing power." "It seems that you know about it, Miss Qin." "Of course I do." Qin Mengyun nodded. "The cloud-slashing power is the ultimate divine skill of the Ending Cloud sect." "The Ending Cloud sect?" Chuli was confused. Qin Mengyun said, "It seems that you haven't heard of the Ending Cloud sect either." Chuli said, "I hope that Miss Qin can explain." "The Ending Cloud sect is a hidden sect," Qin Mengyun said. "This secret skill of mine was passed down by the Ending Cloud sect." Chuli said, "No wonder," Qin Mengyun exclaimed. "I didn't expect that I would cultivate the Ending Cloud sect's lotus-planting secret skill, while you've obtained the cloud-slashing power. It's only by coincidence that we managed to achieve such a miraculous effect. Otherwise, we might not have been able to withstand that force." Chuli slowly nodded. "That's true. In that case, the Dancing Butterfly sect and the Ending Cloud sect are related?" Chapter 2104. Chuli asked, "Is the Cloud End sect still around?" Qin Mengyun shook her head. "It's gone, but there are many branches of the Cloud End sect. Most of them live in seclusion and don't show themselves to the world. They won't tell anyone about the Cloud End sect unless they meet a branch of the Cloud End sect." Chuli shook his head. "I really don't know about this. Is there a Cloud End sect in the Outland?" Qin Mengyan said, although the martial arts of the Cloud End sect is similar to the heavenly demonic power, it's different. That's why they can hide from the Celestials. According to my estimation, many branches of the Cloud End sect are hidden in the Outland. Chu Li said, no wonder I could get this. His thoughts wandered. Since they could live in seclusion in the Outland, it was not impossible for them to spread to the lower realm. That was why he could get the Cloud-slashing treasure book. It was even possible that the branches of the Cloud End sect could establish a sect in the lower realm, just like the light-surpassing realm. When he thought of this, he suddenly wanted to go back and see Shao Qi and Sun Mingyue, even Lu Yurong and Shao Shi in the lower realm. Although it had not been long, it felt like a lifetime had passed. Qin Mengyan said, obtaining the inheritance of the Cloud End sect requires luck. You're lucky, and more importantly, you met me. Otherwise, the lotus planting technique wouldn't be so powerful. It'll be hard for you to recover. Chu Li nodded. I've always been lucky. Otherwise, I wouldn't have obtained the cloud-slashing power in the Outland. Qin Mengyan asked, since you're being hunted by the elders of the Profound Heart sect, why did you come out? I had no choice. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. This involves a war between sections. The Heaven Flying sect and the Profound Heart sect are going to war. Qin Mengyan frowned. It can't be that bad, right? Didn't I just kill Emoji Xuan, and they killed Huang Hemming? So many masters die every day. They won't make a difference. Chu Li laughed. He stood up and walked with his hands behind his back. He circled the courtyard twice. Qin Mengyan could not hide her curiosity as she followed him and kept asking. Being stared at by her clear eyes, Chu Li really could not bear to reject her. He could only say, this involves the dignity of the sect. If we soften, everyone will dare to kill the disciples of the sect. My sect thinks so, and so does the Profound Heart sect. I see. Qin Mengyan nodded in understanding. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps could be heard as Lu Qingxue gently pushed open the door and entered. When she saw Chu Li, she took a few glances at him before her gaze fell on Qin Mengyan's face. She glanced back and forth between the two of them as if she was trying to figure out the relationship between them. She was dressed in an apricot gown and did not wear a white veil, revealing her beautiful face that was bright and flawless. Although she was not as good-looking as Shao Qi and Sun Mingyue, she was still a rare beauty. No one could tell that she had aged, and she looked like Qin Mengyan's older sister. Chu Li gave a fist salute. Senior Lu. Master. Qin Mengyan's face was slightly red, and she hurriedly said, young Master Wu was injured. I brought him back to treat his injuries. Nonsense. Lu Qingxue frowned and scolded. Chu Li hurriedly said, I've implicated Miss Qin, I'm ashamed. Lu Qingxue stared at Qin Mengyan and said coldly, your cultivation level regressed because you used a secret technique, right? Yes, Master, Qin Mengyan said with a guilty conscience. Lu Qingxue snorted and stared at her without saying anything. Qin Mengyan lowered her head, not daring to look at her. Just as Chu Li was about to speak, Lu Qingxue turned her head and looked at him with a cold gaze. She said, young Master Wu, you're very lucky. She knew that if she had to use a secret technique to save him, he would definitely have suffered a fatal injury, and Chu Li had escaped with his life. Chu Li gave a fist salute and said, I'll repay you for saving my life in the future. There's no need for that. Lu Qingxue scoffed. It's better for you to stay away from us. She did not have a good impression of Chu Li. She felt that there was something strange about him, and she could not see through him. It would be fine if he was a top-notch master, as her cultivation level was not high enough to see through him. However, Wu Yuanxi was only a young master, and he had not reached the peak, so it was strange for him to have this kind of feeling. It was better to stay away from such a person to avoid getting into trouble. The Dancing Butterfly sect was not a major sect like the Sword Demon sect, and they did not have strong resistance. Qin Mengyan quickly said, Master, young Master Wu knows the cloud-slashing power. Lu Qingxue turned to look at Qin Mengyun and frowned. Cloud slashing power? Yes. Qin Mengyun quickly nodded and said, How would I dare to lie to you, master? Lu Qingxue suddenly reached out her hand and slid in front of Chu Li, then grabbed his wrist with her mouth. Chu Li moved his hand slightly, dodged it, and sent it back. Lu Qingxue frowned and looked at him. Earlier, his vision blurred, and he managed to dodge her touch. Later on, he noticed that something was amiss, so he sent his wrist back. Such reflexes and speed were not ordinary masters, and the strength of his martial arts was not inferior to hers, perhaps even stronger. No wonder she could not see through him. Wu Yuanxi was amazing to have such martial arts at such a young age. Chu Li looked at her with a smile. Lu Qingxue probed his wrist and channeled some inner energy into it. When it collided with Chu Li's inner energy, it immediately returned to her finger. She nodded lightly and looked at Chu Li. You've cultivated the cloud slashing power. Chu Li repeated what he had said. It was nothing more than a fortuitous encounter in the beyond heavenly realm, where he obtained the cloud slashing treasure tome. After cultivating the cloud slashing power, he realized that it was extremely mysterious and overbearing and could not be destroyed. Fortunately, the cloud slashing power was not as conspicuous as the heavenly demonic power, and even in the beyond heavenly realm, it was not noticed. It seemed like it was between the heavenly demonic power and the beyond heavenly realm's inner energy, which was quite strange. Since you're the successor of the cloud slashing power, you're not considered an outsider. Lu Qingxue nodded lightly, and the expression on her beautiful face softened. She said, Now you know that we're from the cloud slashing sect, right? Yes, Miss Qin told me. Chu Li smiled. I can write down the cloud slashing power and give it to Miss Qin. No need. No need. Qin Mengyun quickly waved her hand. The heavenly demonic power she cultivated was not the cloud slashing power, so it was too late to change the heart technique now. Chu Li said, The cloud slashing power is very exquisite, and there's a special way to cultivate it. It allows you to devour other people's inner energy to improve yourself, and once you encounter an opportunity, you'll improve by leaps and bounds. His inner energy was extremely pure, so if he used the cloud slashing power to devour other people's inner energy, he would gain very little. Even if he devoured the inner energy of other masters, it would only increase a little. However, Qin Mengyun's current cultivation level was much lower, so if she could cultivate the cloud slashing power, she would improve by leaps and bounds. The cloud slashing power was important to her, but it was not that important to him. If he had not come to the heavenly demonic realm, he had been cultivating the supreme diamond scripture, and the cloud slashing power would have been cast aside. Qin Mengyun quickly waved her hand. She did not want Chu Li to think that she was blackmailing him. Lu Qingxue glanced at Qin Mengyun, but did not say anything. The cloud slashing power was indeed very good, but she would not force her disciple if she did not like it. Chu Li smiled. Compared to my life, the cloud slashing power is nothing. I'm only able to achieve my current cultivation level because of the cloud slashing power. If Miss Qin cultivates it, I'm sure you'll be able to reach my level in a short time. Without waiting for Qin Mengyun to speak, he quickly waved his hand and said, Miss Qin, if you refuse again, you'll be looking down on me. But Qin Mengyun did not want it. Chapter 2105. Dream Clouds. Since young Master Wu is sincere in giving it to you, just agree to it. Lu Qingxue gently nodded and said, The cloud slashing power is indeed exquisite beyond compare. Moreover, if you cultivate the cloud slashing power, you can also enter the Grandmaster's realm. You don't have to be afraid, no one will recognize you. The Beyond Heavens realm was far more prosperous and lively than the heavenly demon realm. Furthermore, the local customs were different as well, which was quite attractive to the people of the heavenly demon realm. Even if they couldn't settle down there, It would be great if they could stay there for a period of time and experience the different customs. However, the heavenly demonic power would usually expose one's identity. Furthermore, the Grandmasters and the heavenly demonic realms were sworn enemies. Once the celestial beings found out about it, they would definitely chase after their lives as if they were facing a great enemy. It would be very difficult for them to escape. Originally, the people of the heavenly demon realm did not care about the beyond heavens realm. However, as the two realms fought for a long time, they formed a grudge that was difficult to resolve. However, the people of the heavenly demon realm still wanted to see the beyond heavens realm. After all, with their abilities, almost no one would be able to detect them if they were to hide in the beyond heavens realm. Compared to the heavenly demonic power, the cloud-slashing power's greatest advantage was that it would not be mistaken as the heavenly demonic power by the Celestials and would not be discovered. Many of the Dancing Butterfly Sect's members had infiltrated the beyond heavenly realm, so they had a good understanding of the place. Unfortunately, the Dancing Butterfly Sect did not manage to obtain the cloud-slashing power technique. Chu Li smiled and nodded. Indeed. All right. Qin Mengyan said, I won't leak it. Chu Li said, since I've handed it over to you, Miss Qin, you can do whatever you want with it. You can also pass it on to your disciples. Qin Mengyun understood the meaning behind his words and knew that it was not appropriate to pass it on to her fellow disciples. Once the news spread, the beyond heavenly realm would be in big trouble. These disciples of the Dancing Butterfly Sect, who cultivated the cloud-slashing power technique, could live in the beyond heavenly realm without fear and become celestial beings. After these people obtained high positions, they would definitely stir up a bigger storm. As for the fact that these people would be able to obtain a lot of information, Chu Li did not care at all. To the heavenly demons, the Grandmaster boundary was like an unguarded place. They had already figured out all the information about the Grandmaster boundary, so there was no need to worry about leaking any information about the Grandmaster boundary. Qin Mengyan nodded lightly and said, Young Master Wu, don't worry. I won't teach it to anyone else. At most, I'll teach it to my disciples. Chu Li smiled. Of course you can, Senior Lu. Lu Qingxue nodded. Then I won't stand on ceremony. She had been curious about the cloud-slashing power for a long time, and when she heard that there was a chance to cultivate it, she was excited. She muttered to herself for a moment, then said, I can't take advantage of you. How about this? The Juyun sect also had some ancient secret manuals. Even though they are all incomplete, you can take a look. Incomplete? Chu Li's interest was piqued. Lu Qingxue said, Almost all of these fragments require the cloud-slashing power to cultivate, but unfortunately, we don't have the cloud-slashing power. Even our Heavenly Demon Dance and Heavenly Demon Song require the cloud-slashing power. Chu Li muttered, If that's the case, then there's no need to keep the cloud-slashing power a secret anymore. It can be taught in the sect. This, Lu Qingxue muttered. The cloud-slashing power was exquisite, and it was Wu Yuanxi's secret technique, which he had obtained through a fortuitous encounter. Although it was originally a martial art of the cloud-slashing sect, it did not belong to the Dancing Butterfly sect because of that. If Qin Mengyan learned the cloud-slashing power from her, it would not affect Chu Li much because it would not affect him much. However, if all the disciples of the Butterfly Dance sect cultivated it, it would be a different story and it would definitely spread. With the ingenuity of the cloud-slashing power, there might be people who could surpass Chu Li. This was what she thought, and she felt that it was too much. Chu Li smiled. If it wasn't for Miss Qin's help, I might have lost my life, let alone the cloud-slashing power. Since it can improve the strength of the Dancing Butterfly sect, it doesn't matter if everyone cultivates it. No. Lu Qingxue slowly shook her head. It's not suitable for everyone to learn such an antique study. If everyone could learn such an antique study, then why not teach the sect's antique study to everyone? It was enough to choose a few people with high qualifications to teach it to top-notch masters. Chu Li said, "Then it's up to you. Since you're so generous, we can't be stingy either." Lu Qingxue smiled. She was surprised by Chu Li's generosity. If she were in his shoes, she would not be so generous to pass on her fortuitous encounter to others. Chu Li fist saluted and said nothing else. Lu Qingxue said, "I'll be back soon." After she finished speaking, she fluttered away. Qin Mengyun sighed. "You shouldn't have given me the cloud slashing power." Chu Li smiled. "Miss Qin, you don't like it? This is a martial art that you rely on to survive. How can you just pass it on to others?" Qin Mengyun shook her head. Chu Li said, "Compared to my life, this martial art is nothing. It's not the same." Qin Mengyun disagreed. Chu Li got up and went into the house. He sat in front of the table in front of the window and began to grind the ink. Once the ink was done, he picked up the brush and wrote down the heart technique of the cloud slashing power. He did not hold back and wrote down all the cloud slashing power he had obtained. He blew a few pages dry and handed it to Qin Mengyun with a smile. "If there's anything you don't understand, you can ask me." Qin Mengyun took it and lowered her head to read the heart technique. After a while, she looked up at Chu Li. "This is the cloud slashing power?" Chu Li nodded. Qin Mengyun exclaimed, "What an exquisite heart technique!" As she flipped through the pages, she tried to circulate the heart technique. Although it was difficult and the route of the heart technique was extremely complicated, it required a good memory and a strong enough soul energy. However, the heart technique she cultivated was originally a branch of the cloud slashing power. Whether it was the heavenly demonic dance or the heavenly demonic song, they had extremely high requirements for the soul energy. Otherwise, she would not have been able to cultivate the heavenly demonic dance and the heavenly demonic song. Therefore, the disciples of the Dancing Butterfly sect all had strong soul energy. This was also why there were very few disciples in the Dancing Butterfly sect. Due to the high requirements for aptitude, they could not be compared to other sections. For example, sects like the Flying Heaven sect also had high requirements for their disciples' aptitude, but they could not be compared to the Dancing Butterfly sect. Unfortunately, due to the limitations of their martial arts, the Dancing Butterfly sect could not be considered as a top sect even though they had a high requirement for aptitude. They were ranked behind the Flying Heaven sect. While the two were talking, Lu Qingxue fluttered over with a dark purple wooden box in her hand. She placed it on the table. Qin Mengyun handed over 5 pieces of paper with both hands. "Master, this is the cloud slashing power." Lu Qingxue took it and flipped through it. She looked up at Chu Li and smiled. "It's indeed exquisite. Thank you, young Master Wu." Chu Li shook his head. "Senior Lu, you're welcome. We're not strangers now." "Yes." Lu Qingxue nodded and patted the wooden box. "This is an incomplete manual passed down by the cloud slashing sect. It's thousands of years old. You can flip through it. You might learn something." Chu Li fist saluted and did not say anything else. He immediately opened the purple wooden box. Suddenly, a refreshing and fragrant scent wafted out. Chu Li gently took out the 5 thin books. The 5 thin books were filled with the vicissitudes of time. It was obvious that they were ancient books at first glance. However, they were not damaged. In fact, they were very neat. He quickly flipped through them. Suddenly, he raised his eyebrows and looked at one of the incomplete books. It was a heart technique called the soul-devouring technique. His heavenly star insight technique circulated and deduced at lightning speed. He could immediately tell that this soul-devouring technique was very mysterious. It was actually of the same origin as the cloud slashing power. What was more amazing was that this was the heart technique after the cloud slashing power. Those who had not cultivated the cloud slashing power would not be able to tell. They would only feel that this soul-devouring technique was difficult to cultivate and its power was not strong. However, Chu Li, who had cultivated the cloud-slashing power, knew that this was not the soul-devouring technique, but the cloud-slashing power. Chapter 2106. His mind raced as he raised his head and said with a smile, "What's with this soul-devouring art? It's an incomplete version. It's called soul-devouring technique, but it's not powerful at all. It's much weaker than our heavenly demonic dance or heavenly demonic song. That's why no one cultivates it," Lu Qingxue said. "You have to be careful too. If you really cultivate it, be careful of the backlash." Chu Li said slowly, "This soul-devouring technique and the cloud-slashing power heart technique are of the same origin. They're very compatible. It's likely to be the heart technique for the next level of the cloud-slashing power. I'll give it a try." He thought about not revealing it and cultivate it himself. However, he restrained his greed in the end. To take, one must first give. He said it openly because Lu Qingxue and the others had cultivated the soul-devouring technique, and it was difficult to hide it. Also, he had many divine techniques and did not value the cloud-slashing power that much. Moreover, he could form a deep friendship with the Dancing Butterfly sect and influence them. This would be very convenient for him in the future. Moreover, although he possessed the life and death scripture and the earth matrix and reincarnation scripture, which allowed him to come back to life, Qin Mengyun did not know that she had indeed exposed her secret technique to save him. He had to return this favor. Lu Qingxue was stunned and looked at him in surprise. Chu Li passed the soul-devouring technique to her. Lu Qingxue took it and slowly flipped through it. She nodded. "It's indeed of the same origin. Is it really the heart technique for the next level of the cloud-slashing power?" Chu Li nodded. "Most likely. My instincts are very accurate. Senior Lu, we're really lucky. We're basking in your glory." Lu Qingxue put down the soul-devouring technique secret manual and smiled. "I didn't expect to be so lucky. Thank you." Chu Li waved his hand. Lu Qingxue said, "The Flying Heaven sect and Profound Heart sect are going to fight?" Chu Li frowned. "I'm trying to think of a way to stop it. If there's a war, I don't know how many casualties there will be. Unfortunately, I'm not strong enough to stop them." "Then you have to be careful." Lu Qingxue said, "Profound Heart sect is stronger than you think. Also, they're close to the Sky Wind sect. Be careful not to be tricked." Chu Li fist saluted. For her to be able to say this much, it was clear that the Dancing Butterfly sect's information network was extremely fast, even better than that of the Flying Heaven sect. This was the unique advantage of the Dancing Butterfly sect. As a woman, it was very easy for her to obtain information. If Chu Li had heard of this earlier, he would not have needed to spend so much effort to go to the Heavenly Wind sect. He would have been able to conclude that the two sects had formed an alliance. "If you really want to fight, you can ask the Sword Demon sect for help." Lu Qingxue came up with an idea for him. "You are friends with Murong Cho. The people of the demonic sword sect are not scheming and are very good to your friends. You can trust him. Otherwise, the Dancing Butterfly sect wouldn't have let the matter rest after their disciple was snatched by the Sword Demon sect's disciple." Chu Li nodded. At dawn the next day, he returned to the Flying Heaven sect. He was prepared to cultivate the cloud-slashing power technique and master the last 3 layers. His cultivation base would advance by another layer, and the next time he met the elders of the Profound Heart sect, he would give them a surprise. The Flying Heaven sect was empty, with almost no one around. The only ones left behind were some old fellows who preferred peace and quiet. The entire Flying Heaven sect seemed to have quietened down, giving off a feeling that the place was deserted. Chu Li had just returned to his courtyard and sat down with a helpless look on his face. He could see that Qin Mengyun had a good impression of him. If they continued to interact, it was very likely that he would win her heart. This made Chu Li run away, not daring to stay any longer. He did not come here to talk about love or find a woman, but to find out the truth of the heavenly demonic realm. He wanted to step into the upper echelons of the heavenly demonic realm and change the decision of the heavenly demonic realm. After these days of observation and analysis, he now knew that the heavenly demonic realm was completely different from the beyond heavenly realm. There was no elders' guild in the beyond heavenly realm. They were all sects and did not belong to each other. There were also ordinary people who could not cultivate martial arts and directly belonged to the surrounding sections. There was no government or imperial court in the heavenly demonic realm. Moreover, the alliance between the heavenly demonic realm and the Asura was not the idea of the entire heavenly demonic realm. It was the doing of a certain sect in the heavenly demonic realm. He had already asked Qin Mengyun to help him find out which sect or sects were working together with the Asura to deal with the Celestials. The various sects in the heavenly demonic realm did not have any intention of invading the beyond heavenly realm. They were just curious about the beyond heavenly realm and wanted to explore it. However, because of the killing, old grudges were born and could not be resolved. Many sects had never come into contact with the beyond heavenly realm. Many of them had great resentment towards the beyond heavenly realm and wanted to ruthlessly deal with the Celestials. Therefore, they joined forces with the Asura to launch a big operation to severely damage the beyond heavenly realm. For those who were at the top of martial arts, the key was to quickly settle their debts. Among these sects, the Flying Heaven sect belonged to the forces of the beyond heavenly realm and also had connections with the Asura. He needed to quickly step into a high position to be able to influence the Flying Heaven sect's decisions. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door and Hu Tianlai appeared. After entering the door, he waved his hand to indicate that Chu Li did not need to be overly courteous. Then, he directly came to the stone table and sat opposite Chu Li. "Chu Li, you've done a great deed." Chu Li was stunned. Hu Tianlai said, "The Profound Heart sect elder who died outside the Tianfeng sect was you, right?" Chu Li asked, "Masters Jr., why do you think so?" "The people outside thought that it was the Sword Demon sect, but I know it was you." Hu Tianlai laughed. What a powerful method to be able to kill so many Profound Heart sect elders. Chu Li revealed a bitter smile. "I was almost killed. Fortunately, Miss Qin from the Dancing Butterfly sect saved me. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to see you again, Masters Jr. Was it that dangerous?" Hu Tianlai asked. Chu Li slowly nodded. They suddenly used the heavenly demonic disintegration technique in the end. I couldn't dodge it in time. Did the Tianfeng sect and Profound Heart sect no longer join forces? It should be because of the Sword Demon sect, Hu Tianlai said. This time, it can be considered as taking advantage of the situation. The Profound Heart sect and the Tianfeng sect did indeed join forces. It was really dangerous. I almost made a huge mistake. If it were not for the Profound Heart sect's suspicious and cautious nature, they would have attacked directly after the two sects joined forces without any strategy. The Flying Heaven sect's vitality would have been greatly damaged by now. They might even have been in danger of being annihilated. It was because of the Profound Heart sect's cautiousness that gave Wu Yuanxi the opportunity to use the Sword Demon sect to scare away the other two sects and sow discord between the two sections. After all, the people died in front of the Tianfeng sect. With the Profound Heart sect's suspicious nature, it was inevitable that they would suspect the Tianfeng sect of taking the opportunity to frame the Flying Heaven sect or the Sword Demon sect to weaken the Profound Heart sect's power. Chu Li said, "So, the three sects won't go to war? It'll be difficult." Hu Tianlai shook his head. "It'll be difficult to raise this anger. We have to consider the consequences of a war." Chu Li smiled. "That's good." Hu Tianlai sized him up. "Yuanxi, you've made a great contribution this time. Is there anything you want?" Chu Li shook his head. "I'm doing very well now. There's nothing I want. You've made such a great contribution. Naturally, you'll be rewarded," Hu Tianlai said. Chu Li thought about it. "Why don't you give me a treasure sword? I obtained a sword technique from the Sword Demon sect. Chapter 2107. Hu Tianlai got up and left. After a while, he came back with a long sword in a dark green scabbard. The scabbard was dark green and had an ancient aura. It was obvious that it was not a modern item but an ancient sword with a long history. It was not an ordinary item. It made people curious and wanted to take the long sword out to take a look. Chu Li had the same impulse and stared at the long sword curiously. Hu Tianlai smiled and tossed it to Chu Li. This is the treasure sword I gave you. It's called Wei Ming. Wei Ming. Chu Li reached out and caught it. It was the heaviest sword he had, so he slowly pulled it out of the scabbard. Suddenly, a pool of autumn water was reflected in front of him. As he gently pulled it out, the body of the sword trembled as if the autumn water was swaying. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. This sword was not an ordinary item. The body of the sword was light as if it was weightless. It was thin and transparent as if it was just a thin layer, but it was unusually heavy. It gave people a sense of stability when he held it in his hand. The combination of its lightness and weight showed its excellence. People could not help but like it when they held it and could not let it go. Chu Li shook it lightly and the body of the sword rippled like the autumn water. His mood swayed along with it. Good sword, Chu Li praised. Of course it is. Hu Tianlai smiled. This is the best sword in our armory. More importantly, although the body of the sword is bright, it doesn't reflect light. It's very convenient for sneak attacks. Chu Li smiled and shook the body of the sword. He realized that it was bright like water but did not reflect light. There was no cold or killing intent. It was as warm as jade and did not reveal its imposing manner. Hu Tianlai stood up. Rest well. Chu Li quickly said, Masters Junior, are we going to let it go this time? What else do you want to do? Hu Tianlai stopped and smiled. We can't possibly counterattack, right? Chu Li nodded. Isn't this a good time to counterattack? We can attack when they are distracted and defeat one of them before they join forces. However, we need to be stronger than any of the sects to do so. That's a bold idea, but it's not realistic. Hu Tianlai shook his head. Our strength is not as strong as the Tianfeng sect or the Profound Heart sect. Chu Li said, Don't we still have Azura? Azura. Hu Tianlai frowned. Chu Li could tell that he did not like Azuras either. This made him understand that most people in the sect didn't like Azura. It was just that the sect leader insisted on cooperating with Azura. However, he didn't know whether they would cooperate or not, so he had to find out. The Flying Heaven sect is going to cooperate with the Azura, right? Chu Li asked. To deal with the Grandmasters. Hu Tianlai shook his head. I haven't decided yet. Chu Li asked, Masters Junior, do you know why we're working with the Azura? I don't have a good impression of the Azura. Killing is second nature to them, and they are cold and merciless. Cooperating with these fellows is no different from asking a tiger for its skin, and the gains do not make up for the losses. Be quiet. Hu Tianlai hurriedly waved his hand and lowered his voice. This is the sect leader's plan. Don't talk nonsense and make the sect leader unhappy. Chu Li asked, Why exactly? Hu Tianlai said, The sovereign always has his reasons. We don't know the reason. Chu Li frowned. If that's the case, Masters Junior, you don't know either? Hu Tianlai shook his head. Chu Li scoffed. I hope we're not leading a wolf into the house. Hu Tianlai said, We're not the only ones working with the Azura, there are other sects too. There must be a reason behind it, but it's kept a secret. Will it work if we ask them to help us deal with the Tianfeng sect and the Profound Heart sect? Chu Li asked. Hu Tianlai shook his head. I'm afraid it won't work. There's no such precedent. Chu Li sighed. Then we can only let go of this opportunity? Let the sect leader decide. Hu Tianlai said, But Yuan Si, your brain is getting better. You're enlightened, aren't you? Chu Li grinned. I've been in the Grandmaster's realm for too long, and I've been affected by the surroundings. The people in the Grandmaster's realm are just like the people in the Profound Heart sect. They're all scheming. Hu Tianlai shook his head. I'll be going then. Chu Li Fist saluted. After Hu Tianlai left, Chu Li remained silent. It seemed that it was still difficult to effect the cooperation with the Azura. Even Hu Tianlai could not interfere. He did not know the secret behind it, but he had to find out more about it before he could find a way to oppose it. Then, he would find out which sects were colluding with the Azura and think of a way to get rid of it. He stood up and waved the unnamed sword. He felt the weight of the sword and then practiced the coalescence sword technique. The power of the coalescence sword technique lay in its ingenuity. Every time it drew the inner energy from the whole body, it was similar to the supreme diamond scripture. It was the most suitable martial art for him. Other people could only use one technique, but he could use it continuously and fully utilize his advantage. The Flying Heavens sect was very quiet at the moment. It was a suitable time for cultivation. He began to cultivate the soul-devouring technique and understood the heart technique behind the cloud slashing power. There were a total of 3 levels of the heart technique, and he cultivated them one by one. He had accumulated enough cloud slashing power, so he naturally mastered the 7th level. However, he stopped when he was trying to break through to the 8th level. His inner energy could not continue, and no matter how profound his cultivation level was, it could not withstand its complicated route. The 7th level of the heart technique made his inner energy even purer. It had truly reached the realm of liquid-like inner energy. When it flowed in his body, it sounded like the sound of a river. It was very strange, and the power of his inner energy had increased greatly. It was only 1 level, but its power had increased a lot. Unfortunately, the 8th level of the heart technique was too complicated. He needed to circulate it a few times in one breath. When others encountered this level of heart technique, they would usually not be able to withstand it due to lack of energy. However, he did not have enough inner energy. Relying on the life and death scripture to replenish his inner energy was no longer enough. It consumed his inner energy too quickly. This required him to slowly purify his inner energy. Only when it was pure enough could he support the circulation of the 8th level of the heart technique. He began to cultivate. He did not know how much time had passed. After an unknown amount of time, there was a soft knock on the door. A clear voice was heard from outside. "Senior Wu, there's a lady outside looking for you. Please come in." Chu Li sat on the bed and opened his eyes. "Yes." The young disciple outside responded and left quietly. Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror and quickly saw Qin Mengyun standing at the foot of the mountain. She was dressed in a light green gown and her face was covered by a green veil. Only her clear eyes could be seen. She was quietly looking around with an anxious expression. Chu Li suddenly flashed and appeared in front of her. "Big Brother Wu," Qin Mengyun hurriedly said, "I have something important to say." Chu Li pulled her sleeve and suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared in his own courtyard. Qin Mengyun did not wait for Chu Li to let go of her hand. She hurriedly said, "Big Brother Wu, I heard that Mystery Heart sect is preparing to attack one of your hidden peaks." Chu Li said, "The hidden peaks?" Qin Mengyun nodded lightly. "It's your hidden peaks." If someone else had said this, he would have doubted it. The hidden peaks were the retreat route left by the Flying Heavens sect. Moreover, there was more than one hidden peak. Perhaps only the sect leader and the elders knew how many there were. Chapter 2108. Qin Mengyun came in a hurry. She would not be joking with him, so it must be true. He did not ask how she got the information, but he had a better understanding of the dancing butterfly sect's intelligence. He pondered and asked, "Have they made their move?" "They'll probably make their move soon." Qin Mengyun said, "I'll inform you as soon as I receive the news. lest the hidden peaks are defenseless and Mystery Heart sect takes advantage of it. Chu Li nodded. Thank you. Qin Mengyun took off her veil and revealed her beautiful face. She shook her head. It's nothing. If I don't tell you about this, I'll be ashamed. Chu Li said, I'll report to the sect leader personally. Follow me to see him. Qin Mengyun shook her head. I'll only tell you, Big Brother Wu. I won't see your sect leader. I'll take my leave first. Chu Li hesitated for a moment before nodding. Miss Qin, can you help me find out which sects are working with Azura and why? I think there are many secrets hidden in this. Azura. Qin Mengyun frowned. She did not have a good impression of Azura and felt an inexplicable hostility toward them. Chu Li said, It's best not to let anyone know and investigate secretly. Okay, I'll keep an eye on it. Qin Mengyun nodded. I'll go now. Chu Li gave her a fist salute. Qin Mengyun put on her veil. Chu Li pulled her sleeve and disappeared from the courtyard. The next moment, he appeared in the forest at the foot of the mountain. Qin Mengyun glanced at him with her bright eyes before she nodded and disappeared. Chu Li looked at the direction where she disappeared and sighed. There was still a trace of her fragrance in the air. He disappeared again and soon appeared outside the Basilica of the Flying Heaven sect. He gave a fist salute to the two young men standing outside the basilica. I'd like to see the sect leader. Come in. Zhao Lingfeng's voice came from inside the basilica. Chu Li walked up the steps and entered the basilica. He gave a fist salute to Zhao Lingfeng, who was sitting in front of the table. Sect leader, I've received news that Mystery Heart sect is preparing to attack our hidden peak. Zhao Lingfeng was dressed in a green robe. His back was straight and he looked strong. He was calmly flipping through the dossiers. When he looked up at Chu Li, his bright eyes seemed to be able to see through his heart. The Hermit Peaks? Zhao Lingfeng smiled. They can't possibly know where the Hermit Peaks are. Chu Li said, the Profound Heart sect is currently making preparations. It's obvious that they know of a certain place. Sect leader, do you think that they're deliberately mystifying us so that we can take action to lure them there? Zhao Lingfeng smiled and said, It is impossible for them to know where the Hermit Peaks are. Only the elders and I know. Those elders almost never left the sect, so there was no chance for the Profound Heart sect to pry the location of the Hermit Peaks from their mouths. Therefore, the Profound Heart sect must be deliberately mystifying things. The truth was fake, and the fake was real. Chu Li said, I'm just afraid that they'll really find it. That's fine. Zhao Lingfeng said, the Hermit Peak's defensive formation is not something that they can break. It is already foolproof. Unless they bring all the elders with them, they will only have a glimmer of hope. Chu Li nodded slowly. Since Zhao Lingfeng said so, there was nothing he could do about it. After all, he could not force Zhao Lingfeng to make a move. Furthermore, the Profound Heart sect was really willing to let them lead the way. Stopping them with silence was also an option. Of course, if it were him, he would not have done so. Yuan Si, this time, you've managed to stop the Profound Heart sect and the Heavenly Wind sect from joining hands. You've done a great service, and it's extremely rare. Zhao Lingfeng smiled as he looked at him. The sect will reward you handsomely. Chu Li shook his head and said, Sect leader, I already have the flying demon technique, but I haven't mastered it yet. I don't really need any spirit pills or medicine. Zhao Lingfeng said, the flying demon technique is not that easy to cultivate. Otherwise, I would personally guide you in cultivating it for a month. Thank you, sect leader. Chu Li was overjoyed. Zhao Lingfeng said, You'll have to wait for a while. Chu Li quickly nodded. Zhao Lingfeng's cultivation level was profound. Chu Li felt a huge pressure when he was in front of him. Even if he displayed his original cultivation level, he was still far from Zhao Lingfeng's. There must be other antique studies that he did not know about. It was probably not the flying demon technique, but his current level was not high enough to cultivate it. If he could get Zhao Lingfeng's personal guidance, Not only would he gain martial arts, but he would also gain prestige. With Zhao Lingfeng's guidance, he would become Zhao Lingfeng's direct disciple. Everyone would have a feeling that he would become the sect leader in the future, as long as nothing happened to him. This kind of power would be of great help to him in the future, and there would be less resistance. Zhao Lingfeng said, "All right, then you can go. Be careful and don't go out, or else you'll be ambushed by the Profound Heart sect." Chu Li nodded and fist saluted. Chu Li immersed himself in cultivating the cloud-slashing power and the coalescence sword technique. Once again, he lost track of time. After cultivating the cloud-slashing power technique, he once again entered a state of rapid advancement. His cultivation level increased greatly. Even though it did not double, it still increased by 30%. To him now, 30% was already an astonishing improvement. At noon, he was cultivating the coalescence sword technique in the courtyard when Hu Tianlai came again. Chu Li sheathed the unnamed sword and fist saluted. Hu Tianlai's face was gloomy. He sat by the stone table and sighed. "Yuan Si, you still don't know?" Chu Li asked, "What is it?" "The Hermit Peaks have been breached," Hu Tianlai said. "We lost 23 disciples." Chu Li frowned. "How is that possible?" Hu Tianlai scoffed. "A disciple of the Profound Heart sect sneaked in. Damn it, I must avenge him." Chu Li said, "That's impossible. The Hermit Peaks should have strict checked. How could a disciple of the Profound Heart sect sneak in?" "There's a traitor," Hu Tianlai said coldly. "There's a traitor among our young disciples. It's impossible to guard against it. The elders of the Hermit Peaks were too careless and thought they were foolproof." Chu Li fell silent. The truth was fake, and the fake was real. This time, the Profound Heart sect was fake. The sect leader had miscalculated. Hu Tianlai said, "You got the news from the Dancing Butterfly sect, right?" Chu Li said, "It's hard to distinguish the authenticity of this news. They might have deliberately released it. It's impossible to guard against it." Hu Tianlai sighed. "This time, we have no choice but to fight. Yuan Si, you should leave." Chu Li was startled. "Masters Junior, what do you mean? It's not good to stay in a dangerous place. You should go to the Grandmaster's boundary," Hu Tianlai said. Chu Li laughed. "How can I run away in the face of danger? This is the time to work together to fight against outsiders. Masters Junior, you don't have to say any more." Hu Tianlai said, "He Ming is dead. If something happens to you, there's no hope for your generation of disciples. The sect leader doesn't want to have no successors. You're our seed." Chu Li shook his head. "If I'm gone, younger disciples will emerge. It's impossible for me to leave now. Masters Junior, you don't have to say any more." "You!" Hu Tianlai shook his head. "You're so silly." Chu Li smiled. "It's not a good thing to be too smart." "All right, I'll convey your message to the sect leader." Hu Tianlai nodded slowly. "Don't go out for a while. It's too chaotic." Chu Li said, "Are we going to take revenge?" Hu Tianlai nodded slowly. Chu Li said, "I'll go with you." Chapter 2109. After sending Hu Tianlai off, Chu Li paced around the courtyard with his hands behind his back. Right now, the Flying Heaven sect was in a situation where they had no choice but to fight. It seemed like the Profound Heart sect was confident that they would win. They had even repaired their relationship with the Heavenly Wind sect and continued to work together. He thought about it and suddenly disappeared. The next moment, he appeared at the foot of the Sword Demon sect's mountain. Under the bright sunlight, the Sword Demon sect's mountain peak seemed to block out the sun, exuding a sinister feeling. Chu Li took out the small sword and channeled his energy into it. Suddenly, a strange aura appeared and then disappeared without a trace, as if it had never appeared. Two men in green robes came out from the forest. They held their swords and looked at Chu Li with vigilant expressions. Just as they were about to speak, Morong Cho suddenly appeared in the air. When he saw that it was Chu Li, he laughed and said, I knew it. Who would come looking for me? Come in. Chu Li appeared by his side and disappeared together with his sleeve. The next moment, they appeared in Murong Chao's courtyard. Chu Li took a look at his small courtyard. The rockery, the secluded forest, and the small stream were still elegant and pleasant. Murong Cho was dressed in a tight-fitting white training outfit and appeared to be full of heroic spirit. He chuckled as he looked at Chu Li. I heard that your Flying Heaven faction has suffered a huge setback and your hermit peaks have been breached? Profound Heart Sect. Chu Li scoffed. Murong Cho shook his head and said, For such a thing to happen, I really don't know what to say. These guys from the Profound Heart Sect are too much. Chu Li nodded. Murong Cho said, You will definitely come back for revenge, right? Of course. Chu Li said, Everyone's here to watch the show, right? Yes. Murong Cho nodded his head and sighed. The Profound Heart Sect is indeed unpopular, but they are also quite scary. They are everywhere, and they actually did such a thing. Your Flying Heaven sect was too careless. He did not think that the Flying Heaven sect was incompetent. Even the Sword Demon sect would not be able to do anything about it. It was simply impossible to guard against it. Chu Li said, Now, to break the alliance between the Profound Heart sect and the Heavenly Wind sect, Brother Murong, you have to help me. How? Murong Cho asked without hesitation. Chu Li said, I want to kill some people from the Profound Heart sect. I can't do it alone. Killing people from the Profound Heart sect, good. Murong Cho straightforwardly replied, I like to kill people from the Profound Heart sect the most. I was just thinking about this matter. You can be considered as timely rain. Chu Li felt grateful and smiled. Your faction leader won't agree to it, right? Killing people from Profound Heart sect now is no different from supporting our Flying Heaven sect. So what? Murong Cho snorted. What would the Profound Heart sect dare to say? Chu Li shook his head and could not help but laugh. Good, as expected of the Sword Demon sect. He understood Murong Chao's meaning. The Sword Demon sect did not care what the Profound Heart sect thought. If they wanted to help the Soaring Heaven sect, they would help. If they didn't want to help, they would not. The Sword Demon sect's thoughts were just that overbearing. Let's go, where are we going to kill? Murong Cho urged. I can't wait any longer. Chu Li said, Then let's go to the outskirts of Tianfeng sect. This is powerful. Murong Cho laughed loudly and said, You still have guts, not bad, not bad. When he thought about how exciting it was, his whole body became excited, and his eyes shone brightly. Chu Li asked, Is there anything I need to prepare? We're risking our lives if we go, and we might even lose our lives. Wait a minute. Murong Cho turned around and entered the house. He changed into a long yellow robe and looked very noble. He smiled and said, Let's go. The two suddenly disappeared, and the next moment, they appeared in a forest at the foot of the mountain of Tianfeng sect. Chu Li said, Last time, I ambushed two groups of people from the Profound Heart sect here. Why don't we go directly to the Profound Heart sect and make our move? Murong Cho said, It'll be easier. Chu Li shook his head. Killing the disciples of the Profound Heart sect and destroying the alliance with the Tianfeng sect is really not feasible. They will definitely see through it, Murong Cho said. Every one of them is as smart as a ghost. Chu Li said, The Profound Heart sect is very suspicious, but it might not be useless. That's true. Murong Cho thought about it and nodded. I just don't know when there will be disciples from the Profound Heart sect. Chu Li suddenly waved his hand and interrupted him. Murong Cho looked at him doubtfully. Chu Li shook his head and put on a listening expression. Murong Cho looked at Chu Li and realized that Chu Li's cultivation level had increased greatly. He was already one level higher than him. In just half a month, this guy was really a genius in martial arts. After a while, the three elders lightly fluttered out of the Tianfeng sect and gradually went far away. Chu Li leaped onto the top of a towering ancient tree and looked down. Murong Cho did the same and saw the three elders 2 miles away. Although they were just small black dots, they did not escape his eyes. He turned his head to look at Chu Li and was surprised at Chu Li's sensitivity. Suddenly, he felt unconvinced. He had to hurry up and cultivate as well. He could not fall behind, or else how would he be able to face others? Just as he was about to speak, Chu Li waved his hand and interrupted him again. After a while, Murong Cho finally could not take it anymore. Not going after them? Chu Li said, to see if there's an ambush. Is there? Murong Cho scoffed. Chu Li nodded. There is. Murong Cho was surprised. Where is it? You saw it? Chu Li pointed in the direction of the north and slowly said, there's a group of people lying in ambush over there. They're here to receive the 3 of them. There should be 10 of them. Actually, if you want to ambush them, you just need to bring something like this. As he said this, he took out the small sword that Murong Cho gave him. Murong Cho scoffed. Do you think they have this kind of treasure? This is not an ordinary token, not everyone has it. As a core disciple of the Sword Demon sect, only the Rising Stars would have this kind of token. In his generation of disciples, he was the only one who had it. The other disciples did not have it. The Profound Heart sect could not compare to the Sword Demon sect. Moreover, if the disciples of the Profound Heart sect really had this kind of treasure, the core disciples would not do something as trivial as delivering a letter. Chu Li said, there's always a way. Murong Cho scoffed. Then shall we go attack the people lying in ambush? Chu Li thought for a while. Let's split up. I'll go kill those 3 fellas. Once they call for help, you'll appear and block those 10 fellas. Can you block them? Murong Cho gritted his teeth. No problem. Chu Li said, don't force yourself. If you can't block them, retreat. We'll work together to take care of them. Don't worry, leave it to me, Murong Cho said. Chu Li's face began to change, elongating and broadening. His eyebrows became thicker, his nose became sharper, and his mouth became bigger. His body also changed, growing taller and burly. In just a short while, he had become another person. Murong Cho looked at Chu Li and frowned. Peng Chenghua? Chu Li smiled. Are there any flaws? Murong Cho looked at him and slowly nodded. There really are no flaws. Looks like you'll be able to defeat Peng Chenghua. Chu Li sneered. I'll never forget. Became enemies? Murong Cho laughed. This fella is also a treacherous person. I can't wait to kill him. Chu Li slowly nodded. I almost died in his hands. The next time I meet him, I'll definitely kill him. Then let's see who kills him first, Murong Cho said. Chu Li nodded and suddenly disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared far away and shouted at the 3 elders of the Profound Heart sect, Seniors, please wait. The 3 elders were on high alert to prevent Chu Li from appearing again. Chapter 21:10. The 3 of them turned around and stared at Chu Li coldly. Chu Li smiled helplessly. Seniors, Master wants to see you. Who? One of the elders scoffed. The 3 elders all looked dignified and righteous. They did not have the sly aura of the Profound Heart sect. 6 pairs of eyes stared at Chu Li, ready to attack at any time. They were obviously on guard. Chu Li said, I'm Peng Chenghua. I was ordered by Master to chase you back. He said there's been a change in the situation and we need to discuss it again. What's the matter? The elder in the center had a golden complexion as if he was covered with gold powder. If not for his bright eyes, one would think that he did not have long to live. However, his body was full of vigor. His complexion was not bad. He was born this way or it was caused by cultivation. Chu Li shook his head. I don't know. Master only said that and urged me to summon you back. He didn't approach them, but looked at them warily. In this way, the 3 of them relaxed their guard. If he was really an enemy, they should think of a way to approach him now. Moreover, they did not have any warning signs. It was obvious that Peng Chenghua did not have any killing intent. Moreover, they had actually seen Peng Chenghua before and recognized him. Chu Li turned around and walked back. Since I've notified you, I'll complete my mission. Farewell. All right. The three of them followed him back. Chu Li's speed was very fast. The three of them quickened their pace and surrounded Chu Li. They formed a triangular formation so that they could attack him together if they made a move. No matter what, they did not let down their guard. Even if Peng Chenghua was fine, there was no harm in being careful. Chu Li's speed increased. As he neared the peak, the unnamed sword on his waist suddenly slashed out. The light of the sword silently slashed an elder's neck. This was the coalescence sword technique. All the energy in one's body was concentrated in this sword. What was even more strange was that there was no killing intent. It was completely contained in the sword. It was silent and did not give the opponent any warning. Chu Li did not expect the coalescence sword technique to be so powerful. He thought that it would be difficult and would take some effort. After all, it was not the Sky Killer sword. He did not stare blankly and took the opportunity to swing the second sword. Once the life and death scripture was activated, the spiritual energy from the heavens and the earth surged into his body as if it did not care for his life. The spiritual energy rapidly circulated along the body movements of the cloud-slashing powers 7th level. In the blink of an eye, the spiritual energy was completely replenished. This was different from cultivating the 8th level of the heart technique. When cultivating the 8th level of the mental cultivation method, one would need the pure inner energy of the 7th level. However, when cultivating the 8th level, one would not be able to circulate the 7th level of the mental cultivation method. Therefore, after the life and death scripture transported spiritual energy in, it would not be able to convert it into inner energy that was as pure as water, and thus, it would not be able to circulate the 8th level of the mental cultivation method. Chu Li suddenly thought of a way to cultivate to the 8th level, which was to use his black tortoise shield. Unfortunately, he had left the black tortoise shield in the beyond heavenly realm and did not bring it along with him to avoid giving himself away. When the second slash came down, the two elders who were still alive waved their palms at the same time. Their faces were extremely gloomy. They did not expect that they would not be able to defend against Chu Li's attack despite putting up so many defenses, and Brother Zhao had died. They were extremely resentful towards Chu Li, and their killing intent was boiling. Chi. Both of their palms were pierced by the tip of the sword, which then pierced one of their arms. Relying on their palms to block, the two of them retreated to avoid the tip of the sword. Then, they kicked fiercely, causing the sand and stones to whiz as they flew towards Chu Li. Their bodies retreated with the momentum, and they had already crushed the tokens in their hands. They did not dare to let out a long whistle to avoid alerting the Tianfeng sect. They already suspected that the Tianfeng sect was the culprit. If they let out a long whistle, the Tianfeng sect would most likely turn against them completely, and they might even kill their own senior brothers. Their plan was to delay Chu Li's attack. Once their senior brothers arrived, they would surround and kill him. No matter how strong this person was, he would definitely die. As long as they killed him, they would know if he was the real Peng Chenghua. They desperately used their light body technique to retreat, but they did not expect Chu Li to suddenly disappear and appear behind them in the next moment. His long sword had already cut off one of the elders' heads. The other elder was just alerted when he saw his comrade's head falling down. He immediately knew that he would not be able to wait for his fellow disciples to come to his aid. His face darkened, and he immediately performed the heavenly demonic disintegration technique. Bang! With a loud explosion, the surrounding area was instantly turned into a cloud of blood mist. Everything within the mist was razed to the ground. Plants disappeared, and a layer of soil was shaved off, leaving the entire area bare. Chu Li had already appeared 20 meters away. He shook his head and suddenly disappeared. He was pleasantly surprised by the coalescence sword technique. This way, he could rely on this technique to run amok in the heavenly demonic realm. He no longer needed to hide the strength of his sword technique, and he could even use the heaven-murdering tactics at the crucial moment. The next moment, he appeared beside Morong Cho. He watched as Morong Cho used the imperial sword to fly around everyone. His sword was like lightning, and his body and sword were one. He was truly as fast as lightning, and it was impossible to defend against. 2 elders had already fallen, and there were only 8 left. They stood back to back, and did not dare to surround and attack Morong Cho. They could only defend. If they could really be surrounded and attacked, the imperial sword would not be called the imperial sword, and the sword demon sect would not be so overbearing and arrogant. When they saw Chu Li appear, they immediately rushed towards him. Chu Li also rushed towards them, and in an instant, they surrounded Chu Li. At the same time, they used the heavenly demonic universe lock, so that Chu Li could not escape, and could only use light body technique. They had already used the heavenly demonic universe lock on Morong Cho, but unfortunately, Morong Cho's imperial sword was not afraid of this. He did not need to use void diversion. With the speed of the imperial sword, he was like lightning and smoke, and it was impossible to defend against. He forced them to be unable to surround and kill him, and could only defend. Chu Li waved Wei Ming's sword, and used the coalescence sword technique. Suddenly, the sword technique lit up, as if a lake had appeared in front of everyone. An elder's head flew up, and at the same time, Chu Li also flew out. The palm energy of the 8 people gathered together and split into 2 directions. 4 attacked Morong Cho, who was flying over on his sword, and the other 4 attacked Chu Li. Chu Li took a solid hit, but he also killed 1 person. He spat out a blood arrow in the air, and then turned his body, and dived towards the 7 people again. Morong Cho also rushed over on his sword, and only 3 people's palm energy faced Chu Li. Chu Li was like a fish swimming against the palm energy. The flying demon technique was the most powerful in such a situation, and it could go against the force. The light of the sword flashed, and he once again swung his sword to kill another person. He was immediately sent flying, and spat out another arrow of blood in the air. Morong Cho's sword had already arrived, and crashed into the palm energy of the 4 people. The tip of the sword made a chi-chi sound, as if it had cut through iron and stone, and finally pierced into 1 person's chest. He was also sent flying, and met with Chu Li in the air. Chu Li activated the flying demon technique, and had already returned. He held the sword in his right hand, and his left palm hit the back of the man. The 2 of them shot towards the remaining 5 people at the same time. Although he was injured, he had killed 3 people at once, and the threat was greatly reduced. Chu Li's cultivation level had greatly increased, so even though he was injured, he was still able to deal with them with ease. Morong Cho saw how easily Chu Li killed the 2 old men from the Mystic Heart sect, and he even used the coalescence sword technique. He was immediately unconvinced, and secretly competed to kill more people. The light of the sword suddenly increased, and its speed suddenly increased. It surpassed Chu Li, and shot into the palm energy of the 5 people. Chi-chi. With a sharp whistle, the tip of the sword broke through the palm energy, like a hot knife cutting through butter. It broke through the palm energy without any hindrance, and stabbed 1 person. He did not care about the 2 palm energy that landed on his body, and the long sword once again stabbed towards another person. Another 2 palm energy shot towards Chu Li, preventing him from approaching, but they could not stop Chu Li. Under the coalescence sword technique, the light of the unknown sword increased again, and turned into a clear light, and killed another person. At this time, Morong Cho killed another person, and the corner of his mouth was already stained with blood. Chu Li suddenly shouted, "Retreat!" Morong Cho heard this and knew that something was wrong. He wanted to use his sword to retreat, but it was already too late. Chapter 21:11. Bang! With a muffled sound, the red mist enveloped Morong Cho. He was unable to avoid it and was already enveloped by the red mist. Chuli was also unable to avoid it. Initially, he wanted to grab Morong Cho and disappear, but he did not expect these guys to be so decisive. Without waiting for him to grab Morong Cho, they had already performed the sky demonic disintegration technique. Previously, he looked injured and kept vomiting blood, but in fact it was just for show. Because he had the demonic spirit devouring technique, the profound heart sect elder's palm energy was directly devoured by him, and they posed no threat to him. However, this time, the sky demon disintegration technique had injured him once again. Relying on his much purer inner force, he desperately suppressed it and was in a stalemate. He did not continue to heavily injure him. The Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture had already been activated. This time, he couldn't hide it from Morong Cho anymore. He immediately activated the Earth Matrix and Reincarnation Scripture, and an invisible force slowly appeared from the distant void. He suddenly had a feeling that this strange force came from the Reincarnation Pagoda in the Beyond Heavens realm. Previously, when he was touched by Qin Mengyun, he did not dare to use the power of the Chakra Pagoda for fear of giving himself away. Now, however, he was not worried. After knowing the origin of the cloud slashing power, it was no different from wearing a protective shield around his body. He turned his head to look at Morong Cho. Morong Cho's face looked like it had been smeared with gold powder, his eyes were blurred, and there was blood at the corner of his mouth. He had already suffered a serious injury. Even the long sword in his right hand had lost its luster, as if the blade had been smeared with a layer of ash. Chuli frowned. He could tell that something was wrong. Although the heavenly demonic power greatly strengthened the body, and the bodies of those who cultivated the heavenly demonic power were all tyrannical, far surpassing that of a celestial being, it was still not as strong as his body. He had experienced the tempering of several kinds of mystical power and the strengthening of the spirit pills. He hurriedly channeled his energy and injected a wisp of aura to probe the situation. Suddenly, a strange power surged over, wanting to devour his inner force. Chuli frowned. Morong Cho's injuries were extremely severe. His internal organs were almost shattered, and his vitality was dim and weak. He was almost at his last gasp, and it felt like he was about to breathe his last. The demonic body dissolution technique was indeed powerful. If not for him blocking in front of him, Morong Cho would have already lost his life. Morong Cho let out a light breath and said in a low voice, "I have spirit pills." Chuli took out 3 small jade bottles from his pocket and shook them in front of him. "The one in the middle," Morong Cho said with difficulty. Chuli opened the small jade bottle in the middle, poured out a pill and stuffed it into Morong Cho's mouth. He shook his head and said, "You're too stupid. Why didn't you run away when you saw that the situation was not looking good? Who knew that they would be so vicious?" Morong Cho said weakly. Although his breath was weak and his words were weak, he did not stutter. His mind was still clear, but he felt that his internal organs were injured. Even if he could keep his life, he would not be able to keep his martial art. Chuli said, "Don't worry, I suffered from this the last time as well. Now that I've learned my lesson, I won't be entangled again. Your spirit pill won't work, I'll do it." As he spoke, he put Morong Cho down. The surroundings were empty, clean, and tidy. The two of them sat on the ground and crossed their legs. Chuli placed his right palm on Morong Cho's back and began to circulate the cloud slashing power. He was prepared to lure the aura of the sky demonic disintegration technique over. If he did not let Morong Cho consume the spirit pill, Morong Cho would not give up and would not forget about the spirit pill. At this moment, Morong Cho had completely given up. After the pill entered his internal organs, it was immediately expelled by an invisible force. It did not have any effect at all. He was immediately disheartened. He knew that his life was about to end. He was indeed a little unwilling. After cultivating such a top-notch swordsmanship, he still could not dominate the world. He could not indulge in the world, drink good wine, look for beauties, and kill strong enemies. How could he just die like this? Chu Li said behind him, "Don't worry, we won't die." Murong Cho said, "Elder Wu, we've really failed this time. We've underestimated the profound heart sect." Chu Li said, "We won't fail, we're still alive. We're alive now, but we'll die later." Murong Cho shook his head and said, "It's a pity for you. Your swordsmanship is so strong, even stronger than mine, but you can't cultivate the sword demon sect's swordsmanship. It's really a pity." Chu Li smiled and said, "My coalescence sword technique is quite good." "The coalescence sword technique is nothing." Murong Cho scoffed and said, "Compared to my Imperial Sky Sword, and Imperial Sky Sword, it's far inferior. It's a pity that you can't learn them. But it's not bad for us to be reincarnated together. We won't be lonely." He saw Chu Li block for him just now. Otherwise, his life would have been over. Even if Wu Yuanxi had all kinds of shortcomings and even had ulterior motives for befriending him, for the sword demon sect's swordsmanship, this kind of friend was worth making. Chu Li said, "Pull yourself together, we won't die." As he spoke, he slowly activated the cloud slashing power. After it entered Murong Chao's body, a strange force suddenly surged over and wanted to devour the cloud slashing power, but the cloud slashing power began to devour them instead. The power of the cloud slashing power now was even more shocking. Although it still could not suppress the power of the heavenly demonic dismantling technique, it could barely withstand it. He slowly retreated while more and more power of the heavenly demonic dismantling technique surged over and wanted to devour the inner energy of the cloud slashing power. Chu Li kept retreating, luring them to slowly retreat out of Murong Chao's internal organs. When Chu Li withdrew the inner energy of the cloud slashing power into his palm, it also surged over. Thus, it was absorbed by the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique and turned into a trace of power in the heavenly demonic orb, disappearing. Chu Li let out a long sigh of relief and smiled. Pfft! Murong Cho suddenly spat out a mouthful of black blood. His body instantly relaxed and his inner energy could circulate again. He hurriedly channeled and began to heal his injuries. Chu Li took out a bottle of pills and stuffed one into Murong Chao's mouth. "You got your little life back." Murong Cho did not care about talking to him and began channeling to prevent his cultivation from being damaged. After half an hour, Murong Cho slowly woke up. He looked at Chu Li, who was pacing with his hands behind his back, and sighed. "I owe you my life." Chu Li smiled. "What do you mean owe me? Can we still fight?" Murong Cho said hatefully, "As long as I don't die, I can fight." Chu Li looked at him from head to toe and shook his head. "You can't now." When he thought of this, he suddenly moved the vast spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Suddenly, the surroundings formed into strands of mist, as if it was drizzling. The spiritual energy that was so pure that it was almost tangible entered their pores. Murong Cho was shocked and looked at him in surprise. He was extremely sensitive and felt the changes in the spiritual energy. His internal organs were also rapidly healing and his inner energy was also recovering quickly. Originally, it would have taken 4 hours, but now it only took a moment. Chu Li said, "They're going to fight again." He had already seen the disciples of the Heavenly Wind sect moving out. The one leading them was his enemy, Peng Chenghua. He was not afraid of Murong Cho suspecting anything. With Murong Chao's personality, even if he had doubts, he would not betray him and would pretend that he did not know anything. Murong Cho scoffed. "These people from the Profound Heart sect. I've underestimated them." Chapter 21:12. Chu Li shook his head. His figure began to change. In the blink of an eye, he became an old man. His face was as pale as gold paper. He was one of the 3 elders from the Tianfeng sect. His body was burly and his eyes were shining. "What are you?" Murong Cho looked at him in surprise. Chu Li said, "Brother Murong, hide at the side. I will deal with them." "Are you not going to kill the people from the Tianfeng sect?" Murong Cho asked. Chu Li shook his head. "Killing them is too boring." "All right, I'll listen to you," Murong Cho said. He now had full trust in Chu Li. He retreated and hid in the forest. The spiritual energy around him was thin. It was a huge difference compared to the spiritual energy before. It was as if he came out of the water. He felt uncomfortable, but he did not rush out. The force around him was completely integrated into his sword. The sword was already in its scabbard. His aura did not dissipate at all. He became one with the forest around him. Chu Li turned into an old man and sat cross-legged on the ground. His face was golden, but his eyes quickly dimmed. There was no need to wipe the blood at the corner of his mouth. He looked like he was seriously injured. After a while, the sound of clothes fluttering could be heard. The burly Pring Chenghua and the 3 elders floated in front of Chu Li. Chu Li struggled to open his eyes. His body was tense. He wanted to stand up, but he could not. He only stared at them with a vigilant look. He did not say a word. "Senior Meng?" Ping Chenghua was surprised. "You are?" Chu Li frowned and looked at him. "You are?" "I am Ping Chenghua." Ping Chenghua closed fist saluted. "I am a disciple of the Tianfeng sect. When Senior Meng and the sect leader were discussing, I was also listening to orders. I remember now." Chu Li acted as if he had a sudden realization. He took a deep breath and said slowly, "I am old and my brain is not good enough. I could not recognize you." "Senior Meng, you?" Ping Chenghua frowned. "Did you meet an enemy?" "Sigh." Chu Li shook his head bitterly. "I've failed miserably in an easy task. I've failed again." "Did someone ambush Senior Meng?" Ping Chenghua asked. He could feel the sharp aura around him, and the baleful aura was astonishing. It was obvious that there had been a life-and-death battle, and it was a battle between top-notch experts. Not to mention the appearance of the surrounding terrain, just this strange aura made him apprehensive. If it had been him, he might not have been able to escape unscathed. It was obvious that the ambushers' martial arts were also very shocking. A group of people suddenly came out to ambush us. They almost succeeded. Chu Li said slowly, "Senior brother and the others used the heavenly demonic disintegration technique to give me a chance to live." "How many people?" Ping Chenghua hurriedly asked. "Sai, there are 6 of them." Chu Li shook his head. "I really didn't expect them to be." Ping Chenghua's expression changed slightly. "Which sect's expert is he from?" "It seems to be from your Tianfeng sect." Chu Li frowned. "Could it be that your Tianfeng sect really has a grudge against our Profound Heart sect?" "Impossible," Ping Chenghua hurriedly said. Chu Li said, "I don't think it's possible either. It's a shame that the master I saw was from the Tianfeng sect. Looks like there's no hope for our cooperation." Ping Chenghua said, "Senior Meng, this must be a plan to frame us. The seniors from the Profound Heart sect can see it. If someone else said it was the Tianfeng sect, I would also be suspicious and think it's a trap." Chu Li slowly said, "But I saw it with my own eyes. It was indeed the antique study of your Tianfeng sect. Outsiders can't learn it." Ping Chenghua frowned and said, "Could it be that someone impersonated us?" Chu Li said, "To be able to impersonate your face, what about their martial arts? Other than your Tianfeng sect, who else knows Tianfeng palm? Moreover, these people's palm energy was rich and powerful. They are definitely at the level of an elder. Young Peng, you might not know the secret behind this. It's better not to talk for now." "Senior Meng, do you want to go back to our sect to recuperate?" Ping Chenghua asked. Chu Li shook his head. "I don't dare to go back to your place in case I get killed. I have already sent a signal. There will be people coming in a while. Peng Chenghua frowned and did not say anything. He was also doubtful in his heart. If it was really a false accusation, it might not be too real. The martial arts of the Tianfeng sect were not leaked. Senior Meng would not be mistaken. Suddenly, a low whistle was heard. Then, a burly old man flew over. He stepped on the treetops and landed in front of Chu Li. He frowned and asked, "Junior Meng, what happened to you?" The burly old man's body was like a willow catkin. He silently floated down. He frowned and looked at Peng Chenghua and the others. He looked down at Chu Li and asked, "Who hurt you?" "Forget it, Senior Luo. Let's go back first." Chu Li shook his head. "All right, let's go." The burly old man nodded. "Senior Meng," Peng Chenghua hurriedly said. He was a little worried. Once they returned to the Profound Heart sect, they would be even more suspicious of the Tianfeng sect. It would be difficult for the two sects to continue working together. It seemed like the Profound Heart sect lost more than two masters this time. Chu Li sighed. "Young Peng, we will not go back unless you want to kill us." Peng Chenghua's eyes flashed. He shook his head and smiled. "Senior Meng, what are you thinking? Why would we kill them?" Chu Li smiled and said, "That's good. Goodbye." The burly old man helped Chu Li up. They flew up and disappeared in the blink of an eye. An old man behind him said, "Young Peng, are we really going to let them go just like that?" "What else?" Peng Chenghua said. "If we let them go just like that, we won't be able to explain ourselves." The old man said, "Why don't we just go all the way and kill them all so that they won't spread rumors and deny this matter?" "It's too late." Peng Chenghua shook his head. "Since he can call people over, he must have a way to spread the news. If we really kill him, our suspicions will be confirmed. There will be no turning back." "That's true." The expressions of the three old men behind him changed slightly. They did not think of this. When they thought of this, they could not help but sigh. Young Peng was really meticulous. He was indeed a genius and the future sect leader. Chu Li and the burly old man suddenly disappeared and appeared at the foot of the Sword Demon sect. The burly old man had returned to his original appearance. It was Murong Cho. He chuckled. "How is it?" Chu Li's spirit was lifted. His previous dispiritedness disappeared. He chuckled. "Great teamwork." He did not say much. Murong Cho already knew what to do. There were no flaws in their teamwork. Profound Heart sect had lost a master and was suspicious. The Heavenly Wind sect would also be suspicious and lacked confidence. This time, it was almost enough to destroy the alliance between the two sections. If it really did not work, there was nothing they could do. Killing is not satisfying enough. If it's up to me, we should directly rush to Profound Heart sect and kill them. Murong Cho smacked his lips and shook his head. Chu Li smiled. "Do you think Profound Heart sect is made of mud that we can do whatever we want? Why don't I call a few senior brothers to help?" Murong Cho said. "Can your Flying Heaven sect deal with Profound Heart sect?" Chu Li smiled and shook his head. "Forget it." Chapter 21:13. The two of them entered the Sword Demon sect and returned to Murong Chao's courtyard. Chu Li sighed and pretended to be helpless. What he had done was already his limit. Cascading clouds and cascading rain did his best to weaken the alliance between the two sections. He used Profound Heart sect's suspicions to weaken their strength. Other than that, there wasn't much else he could do. He also didn't want to arouse too much suspicion. There was a limit to how capable he was. If he exceeded the limit, he would arouse suspicion. He had already earned the attention and rewards of the sect. His goal was not to end the sect war, but to take advantage of the opportunity to gain a high position, to be able to enter the core. Now that he could receive personal guidance from the sect leader, he had achieved his goal. You've already done well enough. Don't think that you can go against an entire sect. Murong Cho curled his lips and said, Even I don't dare to think that way. Chuli nodded. The two of them sat at the stone table and drank tea. Suddenly, the sound of footsteps could be heard. A green-clothed disciple pushed open the door and entered. "Brother Murong, there is a lady at the foot of the mountain who wants to see young Master Wu." "Oh?" Murong Cho looked up at Chuli. Chuli smiled. "Invite her up." "Yes." The green-robed disciple swiftly retreated. Murong Cho laughed and said, "Miss, which miss?" Chuli said, "I think I only recognize two ladies." "Don't tell me it's Miss Qin?" Murong Chow's expression slightly changed as he glared at him. "Don't tell me there's something going on between you and Miss Qin? Don't bully your friend's wife." Chuli laughed. "Miss Qin is not your wife. Old Wu, you're too much." Murong Cho snorted and stared at him. "But if you want to snatch Miss Qin from me, there's no way." Chuli shook his head and laughed. A faint fragrance wafted into the courtyard. Qin Mingyun, who was dressed in a light green gown, arrived like a wisp of smoke. She sat down beside Chuli. "I've finally found you, Big Brother Wu." Chuli smiled. "Why are you looking for me so urgently? Is there something important?" Qin Mingyun wore a light green veil that covered her beautiful face. Her watery eyes glanced at Murong Cho. Murong Cho snorted and said, "Miss Qin, don't tell me you want me to withdraw?" "That's for the best," Qin Mingyun said. Chuli smiled and said, "Forget it, Brother Murong is not an outsider. Old Wu is still the one who understands." Murong Cho snorted and proudly raised his eyebrows at Qin Mingyun. Qin Mingyun said, "Does Big Brother Wu know that your sect is attacking the Profound Heart sect?" Chuli raised his eyebrows. "Have they started?" "They attacked the Profound Heart sect and fought for a while before retreating. This time, the Profound Heart sect suffered a great loss." Qin Mingyun praised. "I never thought that your esteemed sect would have such ability to actually be able to break through the Profound Heart sect's great formation. It's that powerful?" Murong Cho was surprised. "It's impossible to break through the formation, right?" It was almost impossible to break through the mountain guarding array. No matter which sect it was, the mountain guarding array was extremely powerful, and for a large sect like the Profound Heart sect, the mountain guarding array was even more powerful. Chuli nodded in disbelief. Qin Mingyun said, "The Flying Heaven sect has an insider in the Profound Heart sect, and they work together to open the Great Formation. Then, they entered the sect and caught the Profound Heart sect off guard, resulting in a huge battle." Chuli shook his head and said, "Those who are good at swimming will drown." "That's true. The Profound Heart sect has always been scheming and plotting against other sects, sending people to infiltrate. I never thought that there would be a spy in their own sect." Murong Cho laughed. "How satisfying, but I've underestimated the Flying Heaven sect. Old Wu, it seems that these sects cannot be underestimated." Chuli nodded. "This is really good news." Qin Mingyun's face was covered with a veil, and her smile could not be seen. Only her bright eyes were curved and she was smiling. Murong Cho could not help but feel itchy. He quickly said, "Miss Qin, why are you wearing this thing? It's so uncomfortable to be so secretive." Qin Mingyun rolled her eyes at him. She knew that with Chuli around, he did not dare to be too presumptuous, so she took off the green veil, revealing her beautiful and moving face. She said softly, "There's another news, it's about the Azura." Chuli perked up. "Have you found out?" Qin Mingyun said, "In our heavenly demonic boundary, there are a total of 3 sects that are related to the Azura." Chuli was surprised. "Only 3 sects?" Qin Mingyun nodded. "The Flying Heaven sect is one, there's also the Profound Heart sect, and the Great Dream sect." Chuli said, "Why are you working with the Azura?" "These people are all ruthless, working with them is tantamount to inviting a wolf into the house, and there will be endless trouble in the future. I think it's not that the 3 sect leaders can't see it, but they're like this just because of hatred. I don't believe it, there must be a mystery." Qin Mingyun frowned and said softly, There's no need to say more about sect leader Huang of the Profound Heart sect. He's very calculative, and there's also sect leader Qing of the Great Dream sect. He's even more perceptive. Together with sect leader Zhao of your sect, this time, they've also made people look at them in a different light. Everyone was shocked. Chu Li said, the Great Dream sect can see through the mysteries of the heavens. Could it be that there's something mysterious that requires them to work with the Azura? It can't be that the Grandmaster realm will invade, right? He knew about the Great Dream sect. Life is like a dream. Everyone is in a dream. Only I am awake. The Great Dream sect was similar to the Stargazing Pavilion and the Heaven-Shaking Pavilion. They were all sects that had the ability to see through the mysteries of the heavens. Chu Li never thought that the three sects that had connections with the Azura included the Great Dream sect. Qin Mingyan said, I'm afraid only the three sect leaders know the mystery. We don't know, but it's probably not because of hatred. Morong Cho laughed. Elder Wu, why are you wasting your time? Just ask your sect leader directly. Chu Li said, the sect leader won't say, or else everyone will know. That's true. Murong Cho said, but why are you concerned about this? You really have the time to worry. No matter how strong the Azura is, it's impossible for them to invade the heavenly demonic realm. There's nothing to worry about. Chu Li said, we can't underestimate them. They're immortal. They're not afraid of death. How can we underestimate them? Who asked our heavenly demonic power to restrain their Azura power technique? Murong Cho laughed. He did not take the Azura seriously at all. The Azura power technique was powerful, but unfortunately, it was restrained by the heavenly demonic power. The Azura power technique was like oil, while the heavenly demonic power was like fire. A spark could burn the oil and destroy it. Chu Li shook his head. Qin Mingyan said, we won't be able to find out about this, Big Brother Wu. You'll have to ask around yourself. Chu Li smiled. That's good enough, thank you, Miss Qin. Murong Cho scoffed. I didn't expect you two to be so close. Is there anything I don't know? He felt bad seeing Chu Li and Qin Mingyan being so close. Qin Mingyan rolled her eyes at him, then said to Chu Li, Big Brother Wu, I'll be going then. Wait. Murong Cho hurriedly said. Qin Mingyan glared at him unkindly. Murong Cho quickly said, since Miss Qin is here, why don't you have a meal before you leave? No need. Qin Mingyan scoffed, then stood up and walked out, floating away like a cloud. Chu Li took a step sideways and blocked in front of Murong Cho. Brother Murong, forget it. Murong Cho widened his eyes and scoffed. Elder Wu, you're too much. Chu Li said, you can't force the relationship between a man and a woman. Murong Cho scoffed. It won't be that easy for you to snatch Miss Qin away. Chu Li smiled. I'll leave first. I'll see what's going on with the sect. Chapter 21:14. He returned to the Flying Heaven faction. It was evening and the sun was setting, illuminating the Flying Heaven faction beautifully. However, the Flying Heaven faction was still empty. There were not many people around. Only a few of the basilicas were still there. Chu Li felt something different. The Flying Heaven faction did not seem cold and desolate because of the emptiness of the faction. Instead, it was filled with a high-spirited atmosphere that made one's blood boil. Chu Li went straight to the dark hall and saw the hall leader, Hu Tianlai. Hu Tianlai's face was as pale as a sheet and his aura was still weak. It was obvious that he was heavily injured, but he did not go back to recuperate. Instead, he was still reading the dossiers. Chu Li fist saluted. Masters Junior, you're injured? Damn it, I'm not dead yet. I'm so unlucky. Hu Tianlai said impatiently. Did you hear the news? Chu Li nodded. Did you win? Of course. Hu Tianlai smiled and chuckled. At least it wasn't a waste of effort. We opened the sect protection formation and fought a great battle after we broke in. This time, we killed 100 of their young disciples. Chu Li was surprised. That many people? This time, it was enough to make them suffer. Hu Tianlai stroked his beard and laughed. These people have been scheming all day long. I'll let them know what it's like to be schemed against. Chu Li said, Masters Junior, it shouldn't be that easy for spies to infiltrate the Profound Heart sect, right? Of course. Hu Tianlai nodded. But I sent a disciple in 10 years ago. This young man has quite a good aptitude and is highly valued by the Profound Heart sect. He has been in isolated cultivation and did not reveal any flaws. Chu Li frowned. Since he's so valued by the Profound Heart sect, will he betray them? He's my adopted son. Hu Tianlai shook his head. Now that he's back, you must take care of him in the future. Chu Li nodded. A person who has made such a great contribution is naturally worthy of respect. Don't just say it. His aptitude is not as good as yours, but he's still a smart young man. He might be able to take over my position in the future. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Masters Junior, you're dreaming. The position of the palace master was not hereditary. No matter how powerful Hu Tianlai's godson was, he would not be able to take over the Dark Palace. The sect would not allow anyone to take over the Dark Palace. If 2 generations were to take over the Dark Palace, they would be in danger of not being able to escape. Hu Tianlai's adopted son would not be able to take over the Dark Hall no matter how powerful he was. Hu Tianlai's adopted son would not be able to become Hall Master. He clapped his hands, and a black-clothed youth quietly walked in. Hall Master, let Spirit Mountain come here, Hu Tianlai said. Yes. The black-robed young man replied and retreated quietly. Chu Li smiled at Hu Tianlai. Hu Tianlai said, My adopted son is called Hu Lingshan, meet him. Chu Li pointed at the dossier on the table and said helplessly, Masters Junior, there's no need to meet him now. It's better for you to recuperate from your injuries. Since the battle is over, why do you still have to fight so desperately? Hu Tianlai sighed. If we want to win, we must guard against Profound Heart sect's desperate actions. That's true. Chu Li nodded. But no matter how anxious they are, they can't attack immediately, right? There are no traitors in our sect, right? Don't let them do the same to us. You don't have to worry about that, said Hu Tianlai. There aren't many young people in our sect. They're all old fellows who have passed the test. There won't be any problems. Chu Li said, The more it is like this, the more careful we have to be. Let me guard it. The sect master is personally guarding it, Hu Tianlai said. We've long been prepared for this. Chu Li nodded in satisfaction. While the two of them were talking, the sound of footsteps rang out. A short young man floated over as if he was riding the wind. He had a round face and large eyes. His gaze was exceptionally sharp and spirited, making it impossible for others to ignore him. Lingshan, this is Wu Yuanxi, your senior brother. Hu Tianlai waved his hand and said, In the future, you must learn well from Yuanxi. Whether it's martial arts or how to behave, you must learn well. Godfather. Hu Lingshan fist saluted and looked at Chu Li with a smile. Senior brother Wu, I've heard a lot about you. Chu Li smiled. Junior brother Hu, am I really that famous? Senior brother Wu is very famous in the Profound Heart sect. All the disciples want to kill you, senior brother Wu. Unfortunately, the sect master did not allow them to do so. He said that they were no match for you, which made them even angrier. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Looks like I'm quite famous, Hu Lingshan said. After that, everyone knew how powerful senior brother Wu was. No one dared to look for you anymore. You've completely defeated the younger generation of the Profound Heart sect. Chu Li chuckled. You flatter me. However, there are many people who say that senior brother Wu is so powerful because of Murong Cho from the Sword Demon sect. If it wasn't for Murong Cho, you would have been killed by the Profound Heart sect. Hu Lingshan smiled. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and looked at Hu Lingshan, who was smiling. That's true. If it wasn't for brother Murong Cho, I would have been killed by the elders of the Profound Heart sect. All right. Hu Tianlai shook his head. You're so young, but you're so ambitious. He could tell that Hu Lingshan was unconvinced and shook his head secretly. Hu Lingshan was young and full of vigor. It was obvious that he got carried away by being favored by the Profound Heart sect. He thought that the Profound Heart sect was stronger than the Flying Heaven sect, which was why the younger disciples of the Profound Heart sect were better than those from the Flying Heaven sect. Chu Li smiled. Junior brother Hu, it seems like you want to spar with me. Hu Lingshan smiled. I've learned the martial arts of the Profound Heart sect. Although I'm not good at it, I've been training hard. I'm very curious about the Flying Heaven Divine Demon technique and would like to learn a thing or two from it. Chu Li said, I'm not good at the Flying Heaven Divine Demon technique either. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you, junior brother Hu. Hu Tianlai said snappily, Don't be so polite. Teach this brat a lesson and let him know how high the sky is. Hu Tianlai was indeed annoyed. Chu Li's arrogance made him look arrogant. This brat had been spoiled by the Profound Heart sect and wanted to establish himself in the Flying Heaven sect. Doing this would not do. He would be digging his own grave. Hu Tianlai had to discipline him in the future and let him know the rules. For now, he would let Wu Yuanci teach him a lesson. Masters Junior, I'm injured too. Let's talk about it another day. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. He would not go and provoke Hu Lingshan. It was obvious that Hu Lingshan was not a shrewd person and had a one-track mind. If he really offended him, he would pester him endlessly. It was better to avoid people like him to avoid wasting his time. As for teaching Hu Lingshan a lesson, Chu Li was not interested at all. Hu Lingshan frowned. Senior brother Wu, do you think that I'm not worthy to fight you? Chu Li waved his hand. I'm indeed injured. If I fight you while I'm injured, wouldn't I be looking down on you? Let's talk about it after I've recovered. Hu Lingshan smiled. I've been waiting for a long time. Hu Tianlai said snappily, Shut up and leave. I have something to discuss with Yuanci. Godfather. I'm not a child anymore. Hu Lingshan said unhappily. Shut up and leave. Hu Tianlai scoffed. Hu Lingshan curled his lips in dissatisfaction. He fist saluted and turned around to leave the basilica. Chu Li smiled. Masters Junior, looks like there's going to be trouble for you. Chapter 21:15. Chu Li looked at Hu Lingshan and pondered. Hu Tianlai said, Yuanci, don't stoop to his level. He's just spoiled. Chu Li shook his head. I think he's a smart person. He's not as impatient as he looks. Hu Tianlai smiled. It's a common problem when you're young. You used to be like that too. You've only calmed down after going through some hardship. Chu Li asked, Masters Junior, we've killed more than 100 of them this time. How many of us did we lose? 2. Hu Tianlai said, the rest suffered some minor injuries but they're fine. Only the 2 senior brothers were unlucky and couldn't avoid the heavenly demonic disintegration technique. That's good. Chu Li nodded. Masters Junior, you haven't seen your godson for many years, right? Yes. Hu Tianlai sighed. I didn't contact him because I was afraid that he'd be exposed. Is there a problem? Hu Tianlai was very sensitive. He understood the meaning behind Chu Li's words. Chu Li frowned. Something doesn't feel right. Logically, I shouldn't say something like that. But, Hu Tianlai nodded. This isn't a small matter. You should say it. But it's hard to find evidence for this. Chu Li sighed. If I'm wrong, I'll be a sinner. Hu Tianlai asked, Do you really feel something's wrong? Chu Li slowly said, Masters Junior, it's hard to explain. I just feel that there's something wrong with your godson. It's hard to tell what's wrong. After all, you should know him the best. Initially, he could not see through Hu Lingshan's thoughts. After all, Hu Lingshan had a treasure on him that could prevent others from prying into his thoughts. However, Chu Li was very observant. Even if he could not see through Hu Lingshan's thoughts with the omniscient mirror, he could still see his every move and every slight change in his expression. It was because of this meticulous observation that he could deduce Hu Lingshan's thoughts from the outside to the inside. He felt that there was something wrong with Hu Lingshan. It was as if he had a huge secret that could not be known by others. Hu Tianlai shook his head and said, "I have not seen him for 10 years. Now that I see him again, I do not feel like he is a stranger. He is still my godson, no one swapped him out." The heavenly demonic power could change one's appearance at any time, so it was inevitable that someone would try to impersonate him. Naturally, Chu Li would not let his guard down. He beat around the bush and asked about his childhood, as well as some details of their previous meetings. Chu Li said, 10 years, and it's at a young age. Masters Junior, it's better to be careful." "Don't worry, I know," Hu Tianlai said slowly. He would not ignore Chu Li's warning and intuition. The reason he was able to safely escape from the Grand Master realm back to the heavenly demonic realm was not because of his martial arts, but because of his keen intuition towards danger and survival. Although Wu Yuanxi's martial arts were strong, he was still a far cry from the top-notch masters of the Grand Master boundary, such as the masters of Taihao Peak. The only reason he was able to escape was because of his intelligence, so he could not be underestimated. Chu Li gave a fist salute. "I'll take my leave then. Go." Hu Tianlai nodded with flagging interest. Chu Li left the basilica and went to his courtyard. When he arrived at the courtyard, he saw Hu Lingshan standing straight. Chu Li smiled helplessly and sighed. "Junior brother Hu, do you really have to compete?" "Yes," Hu Lingshan said. "I know that senior brother Wu is looking down on me. Let's compete then. I want to see how strong the youth champion of the Flying Heaven sect is." Chu Li sighed and said, "All right then, come in." He pushed open the courtyard door and came to the center of the courtyard. He extended his hand and said, "Then let's have a round or two. Junior brother Hu, you can make the first move." Hu Lingshan scanned his surroundings and nodded. His gaze landed on Chu Li and gradually became sharp. It was as if his gaze was a solid object that pierced through Chu Li's eyes. He said in a deep voice, "I'm cultivating the martial arts of the Profound Heart sect." As he finished speaking, he lightly slapped his palm. It seemed slow, but it was incredibly fast. In an instant, it reached Chu Li's chest. Chu Li was very familiar with the martial arts of the Profound Heart sect. He had fought against the elders of the Profound Heart sect before. Although Hu Lingshan was strong, he was no match for the elders of the Profound Heart sect. With a twist of his claw, Hu Lingshan was instantly sent flying. Bang! Hu Lingshan crashed into the wall and hung there, unable to fall. Chu Li shook his head. "Junior brother Hu, it's better for you to cultivate." Hu Lingshan's face was red. His internal organs were boiling and his blood was boiling. His inner energy was in a mess. He could not say a word and his body was limp. He was angry and humiliated. He did not expect that he could not even take one hit. He thought that he could suppress him. Chu Li got up and entered the house, ignoring him. After a while, Hu Lingshan fell to the ground with a bang. He could not move. His internal organs were still boiling and his inner energy was in a mess. He could not exert any strength and could only lie on the ground. After about 15 minutes, Hu Lingshan finally got up. His green shirt was stained with mud. After being soaked in sweat, it was stained with mud. He looked very embarrassed. He wanted to find a hole to hide in. He turned his head and glared at Chu Li's house, then turned and left. Chu Li shook his head and ignored him. Hu Lingshan was indeed a very smart person. It all depended on whether Hu Tianlai could find a loophole or not. Chu Li stood still in the basilica. The morning sun shone on the basilica, making it bright and gentle. Zhao Lingfeng was sitting in front of a desk and flipping through some files. He asked casually, "Are you ready to cultivate in isolation?" "Yes." Thank you, sect leader, Chu Li said. This is the reward you deserve. You don't have to thank me. Is there anything else you want to ask? Zhao Lingfeng said gently. Chu Li said, sect leader, we have killed so many disciples from Profound Heart sect. They will definitely take revenge in desperation. What should we do? Just hide for a while. All disciples are not allowed to leave the sect. They won't be able to attack us, Zhao Lingfeng said. Chu Li said, what if they are like us? I will keep an eye on them every day. No one will be able to destroy the sect protection formation, Zhao Lingfeng said. Chu Li nodded. The scariest danger always comes from around us. Even if Profound Heart sect can't attack us, they won't let it go. They will definitely take revenge in the future. Who knows who will take revenge in the future, Zhao Lingfeng said. As long as you cultivate your martial arts well, you don't have to be afraid of Profound Heart sect. Chu Li said, there's still something I don't understand. Why should we work with Asura? Asura are afraid of violence. Because they are immortal, they don't value their own lives. They don't value their own lives, let alone other people's lives. How can we work with people who are fearless? This matter involves a secret of the sect. Zhao Lingfeng thought for a while and looked at him. You will know about it in the future. There's no harm in telling you in advance. Chu Li was excited. He had taken the risk to ask this question. However, the more he took the risk, the more honest he seemed. It would not be good to beat around the bush. Zhao Lingfeng said, our heavenly demonic power can restrain Asura, but it doesn't mean that Asura can't fight back. Chu Li nodded. Asura did not value their own lives. Once they used the mutual destruction technique, even the great heavenly demon would not be able to withstand it. Zhao Lingfeng said, they are a big threat. Chapter 21:16. Chu Li said, moreover, it's a great threat. They're plotting against the Grandmaster realm, not only because of hatred, but also because they want to kill all the Celestials in the Grandmaster realm to help them cultivate and become stronger. Yes. Zhao Lingfeng nodded gently and said, you are right. Everything they do is for power, for the sake of becoming stronger, not for the sake of wealth. They are different from us in the heavenly demon realm. Chu Li said, once they break through the Grandmaster's boundary, with the help of the celestial being's vitality, they'll definitely become stronger. By then, I'm afraid they'll be able to break free from the restraints of our heavenly demonic power. When that happens, they'll definitely turn around and attack us. Our heavenly demonic realm will be the second Grandmaster's boundary. Zhao Lingfeng slowly said, indeed. Chu Li said, if that's the case, why do we still need to ally with the Asuras? Instead of allying with the Asuras, we might as well ally with the Grandmaster's realm and kill the Asuras. At the very least, we won't be able to strengthen them. Zhao Lingfeng sighed. Asuras are indestructible. We won't be able to destroy them. Although the heavenly demonic power could restrain the Asura power technique, it could not kill Asuras. Asuras were not only strong in their inner energy, but also in their bodies. This was similar to the heavenly demonic power, which was why they were restrained by the heavenly demonic power. Even if the Asura didn't have the Asura power technique, once he used the self-destruction technique, the power would be extremely strong. Asuras were undying and indestructible, so they did not hesitate to use the self-destruction technique. Unlike the Sky Demon disintegration technique, when an Asura died for real, the Asura would use the self-destruction technique as a secret technique, and not as a last resort. The Asura used a normal death to drag the Tianma to its death, which was what the Tianma feared the most. Chu Li frowned and shook his head. There's no such thing as immortality and indestructibility in this world. It's just that we haven't found a way to do it yet. This must be a weakness that the Asuras have concealed. Once we find it, we'll be able to eliminate them. A smile appeared on Zhao Lingfeng's face. I have indeed found this weakness. Chu Li perked up and asked in surprise, you found it? Zhao Lingfeng said, "There is a legend that very few people in the Sky Demon Realm know about." Chu Li looked like he was all ears. Zhao Lingfeng said slowly, "An Asura who can cultivate the heavenly demonic power is an Asura who can destroy other Asuras." Chu Li was stunned. He thought about it and shook his head. Asuras are born with the Asura power technique, right? It's the nemesis of the heavenly demonic power. How can you cultivate it? Zhao Lingfeng said, "Because of this, we were able to destroy the Asuras." Chu Li immediately understood what he meant and frowned. "Sect leader, are you looking for this Asura?" Zhao Lingfeng nodded. Otherwise, why would he join forces with Asura? He had to first gain Asura's trust before he could understand them and pass on the heavenly demonic power to them. Asura hated the heavenly demonic power to the core, but he also coveted it. Once the heavenly demonic power reached the Asura realm, they would definitely cultivate it regardless of the cost. However, once an Asura cultivated the heavenly demonic power, it was tantamount to digging his own grave. Once the heavenly demonic power was cultivated, it was almost impossible to abolish it, so it meant that there was no way to cultivate the Asura power technique anymore. Asuras without the Asura power technique were powerful, but compared to other Asuras, they were no different from cripples. They would definitely commit suicide, which would weaken their strength and slow down their growth. Moreover, they could also find an Asura who could cultivate the heavenly demonic power and guide him to the heavenly demonic realm. Or they could find a way to force him to rebel and make him the enemy of all Asuras. It would not be easy for others to achieve this, but it was not difficult for the heavenly demons. Sowing discord and framing was the heavenly demons' specialty. Once they found an Asura who could cultivate the heavenly demonic power, they would not have to worry about falling out with the Asura and destroying them. Chu Li said, "Sect leader, why go through so much trouble? Just make a deal with them and exchange the Asura power technique for the first stage of the heavenly demonic power. Let all Asuras cultivate it, and those who can cultivate it will naturally come to look for the following heart technique." This is a good idea, Zhao Lingfeng said slowly. "But I'm afraid that the Asura won't fall for it." Chu Li smiled. "Sect leader, you underestimate the attractiveness of the heavenly demonic power. The Asura will definitely be eager to cultivate it and find a way to restrain it. If they want to restrain the heavenly demonic power, they have to cultivate the scripture of great light." Zhao Lingfeng laughed. "But the scripture of great light can restrain the Asura power technique, so it's better for them to cultivate the heavenly demonic power." Chu Li said, "Sect leader, if we kill the Celestials to destroy the Asura, we'll become enemies with the Grandmasters. In the end, both sides will inevitably suffer." "Do you think we can't defeat the Celestials?" Zhao Lingfeng asked. Chu Li shook his head. "It'll be difficult. The Grandmasters are very strong. Although the heavenly demonic realm is strong, we don't have an overwhelming advantage. If we fight, I'm afraid that both sides will suffer. What if we use the Asura to weaken them, and then attack?" Zhao Lingfeng asked. Chu Li shook his head. "It'll be difficult. The Asura may seem strong, but it's difficult to harm their vitality. Although the Asura are immortal, and the Celestials will enter reincarnation once they die, the Celestials' strength will not be weakened. Instead, they will become stronger due to their hatred." Zhao Lingfeng frowned. "We can't weaken them?" Chu Li shook his head. "As far as I know, using the Asura to fight the Celestials is useless. Instead of that, why don't we fight the Celestials directly? They're much stronger than the Asura." Zhao Lingfeng did not say anything. Chu Li said, "The heavenly demonic power is the only inheritance in the heavenly demonic realm, but there are many inheritances from the Celestials. Often, a genius will suddenly appear in an unimpressive sect, and they will be able to cultivate an earth-shattering technique. Such a genius will suddenly appear every few years." "Yes, I've heard of it." Zhao Lingfeng nodded. Chu Li said, Moreover, the Celestials will occasionally have inheritances from the upper heaven, which are even more powerful. It's said that the Taihao Peak is an antique study from the upper heaven, and the other sects also have antique studies from the upper heaven that can suppress the heavenly demonic realm. Zhao Lingfeng thought for a while, and after a moment of silence, he sighed. Yuan Si, I want you to return to the Grandmasters. Chu Li was stunned, and he frowned. Sect leader, I'm afraid, I have a treasure that can conceal the aura of your heavenly demonic power. Zhao Lingfeng said slowly. Chu Li was surprised. There's such a treasure? Zhao Lingfeng said, I'm afraid there aren't many in the heavenly demonic realm. It's a gift from the heavens. Chu Li quickly waved his hand. Sect leader, I think you should keep it. My abilities are very ordinary, and I can't take on such a big responsibility. If I lose this treasure, I'll be in big trouble. You've been to the Grandmasters, and you have a good understanding of the place. With this treasure, you'll be successful, and no one will be able to recognize you. Zhao Lingfeng said, I want you to enter the deepest part of the Grandmasters, and enter the sect. Chu Li smiled bitterly. Sect leader, it's very difficult for people with unknown identities to enter the sect. Ordinary sects don't have much power. The town of 10,000 swords. Zhao Lingfeng said slowly, have you heard of it? Chu Li quickly nodded. Of course, it's also one of the top sections. Chapter 21:17. Chu Li looked at him in surprise. Could it be that he's also from our sect? No. Zhao Lingfeng shook his head. He's a disciple of the Dream faction. Chu Li still looked at him in surprise. Zhao Lingfeng said, he was my friend when I was young, just like you and Morong Cho. Although we're not from the same faction, we're still close friends. Chu Li closed fist saluted. I didn't expect you to have friends in the Dream faction. You're the only one allowed to make friends, but I'm not allowed to have friends. Zhao Lingfeng smiled. Chu Li hesitated. Do you know about the heaven-shaking tower? Of course. Zhao Lingfeng said, don't worry. Not only can this treasure hide your aura, but it can also hide the secrets of the heavens. The heaven-shaking tower won't be able to predict your identity. Chu Li sighed in relief and smiled. What treasure is this, sect leader? Earth Demon Stone. Zhao Lingfeng said, have you heard of it? Chu Li thought about it and shook his head. Zhao Lingfeng said, not many people in the world know about this. It was given to me by my friend. Chu Li sighed. It seems like your friend is really something. It's not strange for the Dream faction to have such a treasure. They're good at predicting. It's said to be from beyond the heavens. As he spoke, he pointed to the sky above his head. Chu Li was surprised. Up to the heavens? Zhao Lingfeng nodded slowly. I don't know which heaven it is, but it doesn't belong to this realm. With this, you can safely stay in the beyond heavens realm and live as you please without worrying about your identity being exposed. Chu Li sighed. The beyond heavens is good, but it's not safe to stay there. I'll always worry about the Celestials seeing through me and killing me. It's better to come back here and sleep peacefully. With this, I'll be safe in the beyond heavens. That's right. Zhao Lingfeng smiled. But even with the Earth Demon Stone, you still have to be careful. There are many people with special powers in the beyond heavens. You can't be too careless. Chu Li nodded. Then when should I go there? Maybe after a while, Zhao Lingfeng said. Train with me for a while and improve your martial arts to the next level. Chu Li looked embarrassed. Yes. Zhao Lingfeng said, you're quite talented, and there's still a lot of room for you to improve your martial arts to this point, so you can't slack off. The wonders of the soaring angel aren't just in its movement techniques and claw techniques, but also in its inner energy. You have to integrate the movement techniques of the soaring angel into your inner energy cultivation method, and your inner energy will be like your body. Only then will you be able to improve your martial arts to the next level. Chu Li was slightly stunned, and his expression changed slightly. Chu Li was not surprised by Zhao Lingfeng's statement. The Grandmasters thought that Chu Li's aptitude was ordinary, either because they had higher standards, or because they had a different focus. After all, the heavenly demonic power was unique, and it was completely different from the inner strength heart technique of the Grandmasters. The last two sentences of Zhao Lingfeng's words had moved him. As soon as he heard them, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and the subtleties of the soaring celestial fiend god art flowed through his mind. Chu Li immediately closed his eyes, sat cross-legged, and began to channel. The soaring angel quickly circulated in his body, and his inner energy was more than twice as fast as before. It really was like lightning, and in the blink of an eye, it had already completed 2 circulatory cycles. It was indescribably fast. With such a rapid speed, not only did his inner energy recover, but the speed of his movement techniques and martial arts had also increased a lot. Although it was not twice as fast, it was still a significant improvement. Just like that, the power of his martial arts would increase by a large margin, and it would also increase his cultivation level. The pure inner energy became more and more refined, like the gurgling of a clear spring, or like a rapid river, the sound of it echoing endlessly in his ears. After an unknown amount of time, he felt that the increase of his inner energy had reached its limit, and he could not increase it any further. He slowly opened his eyes, and saw that his surroundings were empty. Zhao Lingfeng was no longer there. He sat in the middle of the basilica, and there was not a single sound in the empty basilica. The bright moonlight fell on the inside of the basilica, as if a layer of snow had been sprinkled on the ground, making the surroundings even more quiet. Chu Li squinted his eyes as he thought about the soaring divine demon technique. He shook his head and sighed. He had underestimated the soaring divine demon technique and Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng really did have wisdom and a deep understanding of martial arts that ordinary people did not have. Listening to the words of a wise man was better than reading books for 10 years, and a word of advice from a famous master was better than years of hard work. If Zhao Lingfeng had not pointed it out, no matter how high Chu Li's comprehension was, he would not have been able to understand it, let alone cultivate the soaring angel to its ultimate state. He would not have been able to unleash 100% of the soaring angel's power. Sometimes, experience could not be comprehended, and a word of advice saved years of hard work. Chu Li could not help but be impressed, and the importance of a famous master could be seen. When he thought about this, he thought about Shao Qi and Sun Mingyue. They had a famous master at Taihao Peak, and their cultivation level must have improved greatly. He did not know if they could catch up to him, so he had to work hard too. Lu Yurong and Shao Shi had suffered enough in the lower realm. Sometimes he felt guilty, but he could not interfere. He collected his thoughts and left the basilica to look for Zhao Lingfeng. With the omniscient mirror, he found him at the highest point of the mountain. A bright moon hung in the sky, and Zhao Lingfeng sat on a big rock at the top of the mountain. He did not move, and the moonlight sprinkled on him like water. He looked lonely and cold, as if he was the only person in the world. Chu Li thought about it and walked up to the mountain. He did not make a sound, but he did not touch the ground. It was as if his body was weightless, like he was floating in water. Soon, he reached the top of the mountain and went to Zhao Lingfeng's side. Sect leader. He came in front of Zhao Lingfeng and gave him a fist salute. You don't have to thank me. Zhao Lingfeng opened his eyes, which shone brightly as if he could see through Chu Li's organs. He said gently, Your comprehension is amazing, and I can see through it. It's rare. Chu Li gave him a fist salute and did not say anything. Zhao Lingfeng sighed and said, I am somewhat regretting having such comprehension ability. Chu Li asked, What are you regretting, sect leader? People like you will be delayed in the Grandmaster's realm, Zhao Lingfeng said. You should focus on your cultivation. That's the way to the light. Chu Li smiled. Going to the Grandmaster's realm will be a different environment. It will help me understand martial arts. That's true, Zhao Lingfeng said slowly. How about this? Go to the Dream faction and deliver a letter for me. Yes. Chu Li agreed without hesitation. Zhao Lingfeng nodded in satisfaction. He was satisfied with Chu Li's straightforwardness. He said gently, "The Earth Demonic Stone belongs to the Dream faction. If you take this letter, you will get the Earth Demonic Stone." Chu Li smiled. Zhao Lingfeng said, "The disciples of the Dream faction are a little arrogant, so don't get into conflict with them. Otherwise, the Earth Demonic Stone will be unavoidable. If you can't get it, it will delay your plans, and you won't be able to go to the town of 10,000 swords." Chu Li said slowly, "I understand. Your cultivation level has improved a lot. It will be difficult for you to improve even if you sit here and cultivate. You should leave tomorrow," Zhao Lingfeng said. Chu Li nodded. "Sect leader, are you cultivating here?" Chapter 21:18. Chu Li said, "I'm also worried that the Profound Heart sect will return the favor. If that happens, we'll become a laughing stock." I've been guarding against that," Zhao Lingfeng said. "Fortunately, the people in the sect are simple, so you don't have to spend too much energy. Be careful on your journey, don't let the Profound Heart sect people target you." Chu Li nodded. "Don't worry, sect leader. I'll change my appearance." Zhao Lingfeng said, "Come and get the letter tomorrow." "Understood." Chu Li closed fist saluted and tactfully took his leave. The next morning, he first cultivated the flying demon technique, then went to the Dark Temple and saw Hu Tianlai flipping through some scrolls. As the leader of the Dark Temple, he had a lot of work to do and seemed to be busier than the sect leader. The disciple outside the temple announced his arrival, and Chu Li entered and closed fist saluted. "Masters Junior." Hu Tianlai looked up at him and put down the scroll. "What are you doing here?" "Masters Junior, I taught Junior Brother from Spirit Mountain a lesson yesterday." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "I'm afraid he'll hold a grudge against me. Just teach him a lesson. What's there to be afraid of?" Hu Tianlai said. "Are you afraid of him?" Chu Li smiled. "I'm not afraid of Junior Brother Hu, I'm afraid of Masters Junior. Don't worry, I can't wait for you to suppress his arrogance." Hu Tianlai waved his hand. "Also, I'm investigating him. If there's a problem, I won't let it go." Chu Li nodded and closed fist saluted. "The sect leader asked me to deliver a letter to the Great Dream sect." "The Great Dream sect?" Hu Tianlai frowned. Chu Li asked, "Is there something wrong?" "We have to follow the sect leader's orders," Hu Tianlai said. "But the Great Dream sect isn't an ordinary sect." Chu Li nodded. "They have more freedom, and no one dares to provoke them. In any case, be careful and don't go against their wishes. The disciples of the Great Dream sect have strange tempers." Hu Tianlai shook his head. "It's hard for outsiders to interact with them." Chu Li said, "Yes. Go." Hu Tianlai waved his hand. Chu Li fist saluted and left. He soon arrived at the Basilica of the faction and saw Zhao Lingfeng standing in front of the window with his hands clasped behind his back. When Zhao Lingfeng saw Chu Li enter, he pointed at the desk. Chu Li picked up the letter on the table and stuffed it into his pocket. He gave a fist salute. "Sect leader, I'll be on my way." "Do you really think there's something wrong with Hu Lingshan?" Zhao Lingfeng asked. Chu Li was stunned. He did not expect Hu Tianlai to report to Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng asked, "Is there really a problem?" Chu Li thought about it and slowly shook his head. "It's just an inexplicable feeling. I just feel that there's something wrong with him. I can't be sure if he's a spy from the Profound Heart sect." "You've got guts," Zhao Lingfeng said. "If it had been someone else other than Junior Hu, you would have been in big trouble. Suspecting someone without any evidence is just nonsense." Chu Li smiled. I believe in Masters Junior Hu. Zhao Lingfeng nodded. He admired Chu Li's loyalty and magnanimity. He felt that he had not misjudged Chu Li. Chu Li gave a fist salute and turned to leave. As soon as he was out of the sect, he disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he appeared at the peak of a mountain. Then, his figure changed. In the blink of an eye, he became a middle-aged man. He looked ordinary and could not be found in the crowd. His expression changed slightly. He turned to look at the void in front of him. The void rippled, and 4 elders in black appeared. Chu Li turned to look at the void on his left. The void rippled, and another 4 elders in black appeared. He looked at the void on his right. The void rippled again, and another 4 elders in black appeared. Chu Li turned to look behind him. Another 4 elders in black appeared. The 16 elders in black had formed an encirclement. The heavenly demonic universe lock had locked onto him, and he could not move away. Although he still had the void-breaching bead, which could break the heavenly demonic universe lock and return to his sect, he did not plan to use it now. He suddenly flashed. His figure flashed a few times, and before they could react, he had escaped the encirclement of the 16 elders. This was beyond their imagination. They did not expect his body movement technique to be so fast. He could not use the void diversion, but he could still be so fast. They were caught off guard and let him escape the encirclement. They pounced on him angrily. Chu Li chuckled. It was as if there was a rope pulling on his back, and he suddenly pulled 100 feet away from them. They sneered and shook their heads. Suddenly, they disappeared and appeared around Chu Li in the next moment, forming an encirclement again. They could use the void diversion technique. No matter how fast Chu Li's body movement technique was, they were not afraid. Therefore, they were very sure that with the heavenly demonic universe lock, Chu Li would not be able to escape from them. Chu Li retreated again and escaped from their encirclement. The 16 elders became more and more angry. Chu Li's light body technique was beyond their imagination, but they still could not surround him. Therefore, they used the void diversion while attacking him with their palms. They wanted to surround him and form an encirclement. They were sure that once they formed an encirclement, the boy in front of them would definitely die. Chu Li had already cultivated the flying demon technique to the point of perfection. The strength of his light body technique was beyond imagination. It could be as gentle as the wind and silent, or as fast as lightning, as if there was a powerful force tearing it apart. The 16 elders' palms were like a thunderstorm. Their body movement technique was extremely fast, but Chu Li could always escape from their encirclement without being touched by them. He sped towards the direction of the Great Dream Sect. The 16 elders were like maggots attached to bones, following closely behind him. He could not afford to be careless. Once he slowed down, they would form an encirclement and attack him like a thunderstorm. Chu Li kept running, and they kept chasing. After a day and a night, Chu Li was still full of energy. In fact, his speed was even faster. Under such a desperate situation, his potential was stimulated, and the flying divine demon technique improved by leaps and bounds. He became more and more skillful, and he reached the state where his body was the first to move. Before his mind moved, his body reacted first, and he was one step faster. Under their relentless pursuit, he was leisurely and contented. Occasionally, he would take out a water bag from his waist and drink a few mouthfuls. Other than that, he did not sleep, rest, or eat. The 16 elders behind him were even more leisurely. One of them suddenly disappeared, and then reappeared with food and water bags. He passed them to the other 15 elders, so they did not have to worry about food and water while chasing. Chu Li was not in a hurry to summon Morong Cho. In this situation, even if he did, it would be useless. The two of them could not deal with the 16 elders. The only thing they could do was to escape. As long as he escaped to the Great Dream Sect, they would not dare to chase after him. Compared to the Demon Sword Sect, the Great Dream sect was even stranger and more unpredictable. Moreover, their way of doing things was not inferior to the Demon Sword sect. The Profound Heart sect dared to provoke the Flying Divine sect, but they did not dare to provoke the Great Dream sect. The next morning, Chu Li was still running in high spirit. Suddenly, a middle-aged man appeared in front of him. The sudden appearance made Chu Li's body speed up, and he moved 100 feet away to avoid the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man suddenly let out a long whistle. The whistle was like thunder, shaking people's souls. Chu Li's Mahavairokkana's immovable Buddha opened his eyes, and instantly got rid of the effect of the whistle. However, he could not help but stop for a moment. Chapter 21:19. Chu Li's body suddenly swayed and stuck close to the 4 elders, ignoring the 12 elders behind him. Bam 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 bam. The palm energy was like a drum. His body trembled slightly as he forcefully endured the 16 palm energy. The 16 elders smiled. The sword at Chu Li's waist turned into a cold light and slashed an elder's throat. The elder's body movement technique was also extremely fast. He hurriedly retreated but could not avoid it. His head was instantly separated from his body. The 15 old men were enraged and no longer dared to underestimate him. Their palms whistled as they tried to devour him. The middle-aged man in the distance also appeared outside the formation in a flash, filling in the gap left by the old man. Chu Li repeated the same trick and pounced at the 4 elders again. He did not care about himself and only swung his sword. The sword light was like lightning towards an elder's throat, but the elder retreated and avoided it. With this retreat, the formation slowed down. Chu Li suddenly drilled out of the formation. He was light and agile as if it was effortless. He had the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique. At this time, he could not care less and directly devoured their palm energy. He then used the coalescence sword technique to perish together, forcing the 15 elders and 1 middle-aged man to hesitate. Chu Li immediately shot out again and escaped far away from their pursuit. The 15 elders and the middle-aged man were extremely angry. Their anger and killing intent boiled, urging them to chase desperately. They tried to surround Chu Li several times and felt that they could kill him with a few more palms. However, Chu Li was extremely slippery. He did not give them a chance to surround him. No matter how they chased, they were still a little short. In the end, they used a secret skill in a hurry and their speed suddenly increased. When they were about to catch up to Chu Li also used the sacrificial divine power. His speed was slightly faster than them, and he disappeared in the blink of an eye. However, they were not anxious. With the heavenly demonic universe lock, it was useless for him to escape to the ends of the earth. A void diversion could destroy him. Chu Li could not use void diversion, but his speed was like a stream of light. The 16 of them could not catch up to him in such a short amount of time. They tried to use void diversion to catch up to him, but they could not see his shadow. When they teleported to Chu Li's original position, he was already far away. Chu Li suddenly activated the short and exquisite sword in his arms. Murong Cho suddenly appeared beside him. Murong Cho was dressed in a green gown. His eyes shone brightly as he said excitedly, "More people from the Profound Heart sect to kill?" Chu Li tugged at his sleeve and sped away like a stream of light. He said in a low voice, "I've only killed one of the 17 fellas. There are still 16 left. I've been struck by the heavenly demonic universe lock, so I can't shift them. I'll bring you along." Murong Cho reached out to pull his sleeve and was about to leave. Chu Li shook his head and said, "It's useless. With the heavenly demonic universe lock, they can always catch up to us." Murong Cho said, "Let's return to my sect and see if they dare to come." Chu Li replied, "I want to kill them, not escape back to the Sword Demon sect. 16 fellows. The 2 of us won't be able to kill them all." No matter how arrogant Murong Cho was, he knew his limits. They could still deal with 6 of them, but there was no hope for 16 of them. It was tantamount to digging their own graves. Chu Li asked, "What if we include Senior Brother Gu and Senior Brother Jiang? Call them over together?" Murong Cho was surprised. "You're really daring to think about it," Chu Li said snappily. "We'll have to eliminate them anyway. The news won't spread. The Profound Heart sect will only think that I'm the one who did it. They might even think that the Flying Heaven sect used me as bait to kill them." "All right." Murong Cho nodded. "I'll ask Senior Brother and the others." Chu Li nodded. Murong Cho suddenly disappeared. Chu Li's body suddenly sped up and activated the sacrificial divine power to the 10th level. He could still hold on for half an hour. After half an hour, the sacrificial divine power would stop. He needed a good rest. However, he was a little curious. How did they find him and cast the Heavenly Demonic Universe Lock? The Heavenly Demonic Universe Lock seemed to need to be close to him to be cast, right? The people from the Profound Heart sect would not be able to get close to him. He had the omniscient mirror. As long as he was prepared, it would be impossible for anyone to take advantage of him. Therefore, it was very important to find out how he was hit by the Heavenly Demonic Universe Lock. After a while, Murong Cho appeared again. Gu Tianqi and Jiang Zhenghua followed beside him. Both of them were smiling with swords hanging on their shoulders. They waved their hands to greet him. Chu Li, on the other hand, bowed solemnly. "I'll be the bait. When they surround us, Brother Murong and the 2 senior brothers will make a move. We'll catch them off guard. We'll definitely be able to kill a few of them," Chu Li said as he sped forward. His speed was extremely fast. Gu Tianqi and Jiang Zhenghua could not keep up with him. In the blink of an eye, they were left behind. Chu Li let go and Murong Cho disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared beside Gu Tianqi and Jiang Zhenghua. He explained to them, and the 3 of them disappeared together. Chu Li's movements suddenly slowed down. Then, 16 people appeared beside him. They surrounded him in the middle. Palm energy that covered the sky and the earth slammed down. It was like a storm shrouding him, not giving him a chance to escape. Chu Li pounced on the middle-aged man again. He did not care about the rest. The elders gritted their teeth and attacked with all their might. Bam bam, sounds were heard when they hit his body. There was blood at the corner of Chu Li's mouth, but he still swung his sword. His sword light was unusually bright. It was so bright that people could not open their eyes. The middle-aged man had a strange technique. However, he could not escape and scathed under the combination of Chu Li's sacrificial divine power and coalescence sword technique. He originally wanted to take this attack head-on. However, he realized that it was not good. He tried to avoid it, but he could not avoid it completely. His shoulder was cut by the sword. Blood gushed out like a fountain. He could not stop it and could only retreat. Murong Cho and the other 2 suddenly appeared outside the formation. They swung their swords at the same time. 3 beams of sword light rang out almost at the same time. They were unprepared. The elders hated Chu Li to the core. All of their attention was focused on killing Chu Li. They lost their vigilance. When Murong Cho and the other 3's swords shone on them, they realized that something was wrong. It was too late to dodge. Swish! 3 heads flew into the sky. A pillar of blood followed. Murong Cho and the other 2 rushed into the formation and met up with Chu Li. They swung their swords at the same time and blocked the attacks of the remaining 12 people. Swish, 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 swish. The sword light cut through the palm energy. Chu Li flashed and escaped the encirclement again. He fled into the distance and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Murong Cho and the other 2 suddenly disappeared in a flash. They moved through the void and left. The remaining 12 people were furious. They chased after Chu Li again. Chu Li waited for them to catch up and attacked again. He used the same old method. This time, the elders of Profound Heart sect learned their lesson. They no longer attacked with all their might. Instead, 4 of them attacked and the remaining 8 were on guard. Murong Cho and the other 2 appeared again. They waved their swords and attacked the 8 elders. Chu Li suddenly swayed and avoided the 4 elders in front of him. He appeared behind Murong Chao's opponent and swept his sword. It was silent and without any killing intent. Coupled with his body movement technique, he was not discovered by the elder. Murong Chao's sword stabbed at the same time. The elder was about to dodge, but he felt a pain in his back. He had been hit by the sword. The energy in his body suddenly surged out and disappeared in the blink of an eye. The other elder saw Chu Li's sneak attack and hit him on the back with his palm. It was a solid hit. However, it was absorbed by the heavenly demonic spirit devouring technique. Chu Li pretended to be injured and spat out another arrow of blood. Chapter 21:20. Murong Cho shouted, "I'll do it myself." Chu Li wiped the corner of his mouth and said snappily, "There are so many of them and you still want to do it yourself. Aren't you stupid?" Gu Tianqi quickly said, "Junior brother Murong, don't be stupid. We can't even handle them together and you still want to fight them alone?" Alright. Murong Cho also felt that his words were inappropriate and said helplessly, "Then we'll work together to kill them. Damn it, so many of them are taking care of you, they really think highly of you." Chu Li smiled. "They'll kill me at all costs." After his soaring demon technique improved, his body movement technique was not only faster but also more agile and unpredictable. His body moved with his thoughts and was often beyond imagination. There was no sign of him advancing or retreating, and he was extremely fast. This allowed him to deal with the encirclement with ease. They fought as they escaped, slowly devouring the Profound Heart Sect elders. Unknowingly, there were only 8 Profound Heart Sect elders left. At this time, Chu Li and the other 3 started to be careful and restrained. "Brother Murong, you guys go first. I can handle it." Chu Li raised his voice. Murong Cho said, "All right." He knew that these people from Profound Heart Sect would commit suicide if something went wrong. The power was shocking. He had personally experienced the power of the heavenly demonic disintegration technique. If they were not careful, their lives would be in danger. Chu Li urged, "Go quickly, go quickly. Senior brother Gu, senior brother Jiang, will go first." Murong Cho shouted. The 2 senior brothers were his help. If they were in danger because of this, he would be guilty. "Alright, UNC, be careful. If you really can't handle it, call us," Gu Tianqi said. Chu Li nodded and closed fist saluted. His figure was at ease under the encirclement of the 8 elders. He was calm like a fish in water. The 3 of them suddenly disappeared without a trace. Chu Li turned and ran. The 8 of them could not stop him at all. They desperately chased after him and kept teleporting in front of him. However, they were easily bypassed by him. They could only watch him run for 2 days and 1 night. One morning, he ran to a towering peak. He stood at the bottom of the peak and shouted, "Wu Yuanci of Flying Heaven Sect greets Senior Feng Chongxing of Great Dream Sect." His voice was like thunder, reverberating through the entire mountain range, resounding through every inch of land. After the roar, the 8 elders' faces changed. They did not expect Chu Li to come to the Great Dream faction. Although the Profound Heart faction was strong and they were not afraid of other factions, they could not afford to offend the Great Dream faction. They stopped in their tracks and stood at the peak of another mountain. They wanted to see if Chu Li was bluffing to scare them. If he could really enter the Great Dream sect, then they could not chase after him anymore. Instead, they had to send the news back to the sect. "What kind of rude person is this? How dare you make such a fuss? You deserve to die." A loud voice was heard and an invisible force slapped Chu Li's face. Chu Li swayed lightly and dodged the attack. Then, he swayed again and dodged the second attack. Then, he swayed again and dodged the third attack. Chu Li's expression turned serious. He didn't expect this guy to be so persistent and go too far. I was ordered by the sect leader to come to the Great Dream faction to deliver a message to Senior Feng. Chu shouted and swayed lightly to avoid the palm energy that was chasing after him. This palm energy was controlled by someone who was hiding in the dark. To be able to control such a palm energy from a distance, it was really mysterious and impressive. However, Chu would not stop because of this and let them slap him in the face. He thought about the sect leader's warning and shook his head helplessly. The people from the Great Dream faction were really weird and could not be judged by common sense. He was a guest, so even if he was rude, he would not be beaten. If he was not worried about his opponent's temper, he would have slapped back and stopped the endless entanglement. However, right after he said that, a cold scoff came from the void opposite him. I don't care which sect you are from. If you make a fuss in the Great Dream faction, you will be taught a lesson. Or else get lost. Chu stopped abruptly and lightly struck out with his palm. Bang! An explosion sounded like thunder. Chu stood firmly on the ground. His clothes were fluttering as if he was in a strong wind. Very good. A slender and handsome young man appeared in the void with a sneer. The young man was tall and handsome. At first glance, he looked like a beauty. However, if one looked closely, one would see his Adam's apple and beard. The thin beard could only be seen clearly. Dan Feng's eyes were bright as he stared at Chu Li. Chu Li frowned and looked at him. He closed fist saluted and said, "May I know who you are?" Song Yukuan. The handsome young man said coldly, "The Great Dream faction is not allowed to make loud noises. Otherwise, it will disturb our fellow disciples who are cultivating in isolation. It is a big sin. How can you be so rude? This is not how a guest should behave." Chu Li smiled. "I don't believe that the Great Dream faction does not have a protective formation. Almost all of the sect's great protective formations had the effect of reducing sound, and there were no exceptions. Otherwise, as long as a person who was proficient in the demonic song sang a song, or even a person with a high cultivation base whistled a few times, they would be able to attack the sects, and the sects would suffer great losses. Song Yukuan was obviously trying to pick a fight with him. Song Yukuan said coldly, "Whether or not there is a protective formation has nothing to do with your shouting. Since you are so rude, we naturally don't need to talk about hospitality. You want to see Senior Brother Feng? Fine, then kowtow twice to apologize. Otherwise, go back to where you came from." Chu Li frowned. "Can't you make an exception?" "No," Song Yukuan said in a low voice. Chu Li knew that his position was higher than Song Yukuan. If not, he would not dare to do such a thing. He just did not understand why Song Yukuan was against him. Could it be because of him making a ruckus? That would be ridiculous. However, the disciples of the Great Dream faction had strange tempers. He shook his head and said slowly, "If that's the case, I have to defeat you to see Senior Feng? If you defeat me, I will report directly." Song Yukuan said slowly, "Let's see if you have the ability to do so." Chu Li sighed. "Let's do it then." Chu Li, who had the life and death scripture, always unconsciously hid his aura. Others could not tell how strong he was. Once they fought, they realized that he was stronger than he looked. They did not think that anything was wrong and thought that it was because of the treasures. Song Yukuan thought that his cultivation level was only SOSO. He was very disdainful. "Come." Chu Li suddenly appeared in front of him and clawed down. His 5 claws were like hooks. It was frightening. Song Yukuan took a step back and dodged it. He said in disdain, "That's all you've got." Chu Li continued to attack with his claws, but he realized that Song Yukuan was always able to dodge his attacks just in time. No matter how fast Chu Li's body movement technique was, or how sudden and strange it was, or how unimaginable it was, Song Yukuan was always able to dodge it. It was as if Song Yukuan knew his moves in advance. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. He knew what was going on. Song Yukuan could predict his move. It was obviously the antique study of the Great Dream faction. No wonder he was so arrogant and did not take him seriously even though his cultivation level was higher than his. Chapter 21-21. From the looks of it, this flower-gazing heart technique was similar to his nature restoration manifestation. As his heavenly star insight technique and omniscient mirror improved, his nature restoration manifestation became stronger as well. However, he rarely used it because the heavenly star insight technique conflicted with the nature restoration manifestation. As for the heavenly star void technique, he had been using it all this time, multitasking and deriving all sorts of profoundness. He had not even given up on deriving the patterns on the heart of Azura, the profoundness of the heavenly book of indifference, the flying godfiend technique, and so on. As such, the nature restoration manifestation could not be used all the time. However, his martial arts did not require the nature restoration manifestation, so he did not stop using the heavenly star insight to use the nature restoration manifestation. However, he knew how to break the nature restoration manifestation and the flower-gazing heart technique. The most important thing was to catch him by surprise. It was best to use martial arts that he had never used before, such as the sword technique he learned from the demonic sword sect. He had to use it as a surprise. He tried but failed. Song Yukuan seemed to be able to see through his moves and avoid them in advance. It was quite amazing. He knew that the flower-gazing heart technique was different from his nature restoration manifestation. It was a completely different heart technique with its own mysteries. He thought that he could block others from prying into his thoughts, so the strange flower-gazing heart technique was able to see through his thoughts. Otherwise, he would not have been able to dodge so easily. Song Yukuan, what martial arts is this? Chu Li asked. He was sure that Song Yukuan would tell him the truth and not hide anything. He was so arrogant that he did not want to hide anything. Flower-gazing in dream. Song Yukuan scoffed. Chu Li praised. What a good flower-gazing, it lives up to its name. Could it be that he saw through my thoughts and knew what I was going to do? That's why he was able to avoid it? The omniscient mirror could not see through Song Yukuan's thoughts as it was covered by a hazy white light. It was a vast expanse of whiteness, different from the treasures worn by other people. Song Yukuan said, I might as well tell you that I can see through what you're going to do. Impossible. Chu Li shook his head. The two of them exchanged blows as they spoke. Chu Li's flying demon claw was abrupt and strangely fast, and it was impossible to defend against it. Song Yukuan, on the other hand, dodged it with ease, as if his body could maintain a distance from Chu Li and he could not touch him. As Chu Li spoke, he analyzed the reason behind it. Soon, he realized that the flower in the dream was not looking at his mind, but at his body. It was very likely that the flower was judging what he was about to do through some of his small movements, and thus avoided it in advance. It was even a type of profound sensation that allowed one to maintain an equal distance from him and be in a safe position at all times without being attacked. No matter what, it was an extremely profound mental cultivation technique. As he thought of this, he suddenly stretched out his hand and a stone flew into his palm. He then shot it out. Chi. The stone burst into several small pebbles and enveloped Song Yukuan. Song Yukuan waved his sleeves and a wave of energy surged out, causing the pebbles to change directions and shoot into the nearby forest. The trees exploded, forming small holes that pierced through the ancient trees. Song Yukuan occasionally glanced at the ancient trees that had been pierced through. His expression did not change, but he was secretly apprehensive. Wu Yuanxi's cultivation was so profound that he was no match for him. He became more careful and his movements became more agile. Chu Li was light and agile, and so was Song Yukuan. He was always slightly faster than Chu Li, Chu Li could not even touch him, not even a strand of his hair. Song Yukuan felt a little vexed, but he was secretly annoyed, so his movements became faster and faster. In the end, he could only see two shadows tangling with each other. He could not see their faces or clothes clearly. Bang! Chu Li suddenly hit Song Yukuan with his palm. He suddenly changed from extreme movement to extreme stillness. This way, Song Yukuan was caught off guard. Even if he could react, his body could not turn around and he was hit in the chest by Chu Li's palm. Bang! Song Yukuan landed on the ancient tree behind him. Then, with a crack, the ancient tree behind him slowly fell. It had already been pierced through by the pebbles, and now that it was hit by Song Yukuan, the ancient tree could not hold on any longer. It slowly fell and broke in the middle. Chu Li smiled and took a step back. "Thank you, Master Song." "Good. Good." There was blood at the corner of Song Yukuan's mouth. Chu Li could not hold back, or else he might not have hit Song Yukuan. It was rare that Song Yukuan was only slightly injured when he used all his strength. Chu Li noticed that there was a strange vibration coming from his body. Chu Li smiled at him. "Are you okay?" Song Yukuan slowly got up and said coldly, "Good skill, you win. I will report immediately." Chu Li closed fist saluted. "Thank you." Song Yukuan scoffed. "Don't worry about it. I lost the bet." He turned around and was about to walk up the mountain. Chu Li quickly stopped him. "Master Song, did you see through my thoughts or could you predict my subtle movements?" Song Yukuan was annoyed. "Do you think I will tell you?" Chu Li smiled. "That's nothing, right? Don't even think about it." Song Yukuan turned around and walked away. He covered his chest and coughed twice. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the forest. Chu Li frowned as he watched him disappear. Song Yukuan was not to be underestimated. If they were to really fight, Chu Li might not be able to kill him. He had extremely sharp instincts and incredible speed. He was one of the most difficult people to deal with. After a while, Song Yukuan appeared again. His face was as white as a sheet. Chu Li's palm force had been lingering around his internal organs. He could not control it. The palm force was too pure and solid. Although Song Yukuan's cultivation level was high, he could not control it. He could not get rid of it. Therefore, after taking the spirit pill, his injuries became worse. "Go in." Song Yukuan scoffed. "Follow me." Chu Li suddenly flashed to his back and patted him lightly. Song Yukuan wanted to dodge, but it was too late. With his injuries, he could not do as he wished. He could only let Chu Li pat him on the back. A rich inner energy entered his body. The strange and unpredictable palm force that came into contact with this rich inner energy disappeared like snow in boiling water. He turned his head and stared at Chu Li. "Thank you." Chu Li shook his head and smiled. The two of them floated up and soon arrived at a huge treehouse in the forest. Chu Li lifted his head and looked at the huge treehouse. It was about 20 meters long and 10 meters tall. It was located in the middle of 4 trees. The roof almost reached the top of the trees. The ancient trees were so tall that they almost reached the clouds. It was no different from a skyscraper. Chu Li lifted his head and looked at Song Yukuan. Song Yukuan raised his voice. "Brother Feng, you're here. Come up." A hoarse voice called out. Chu Li floated up and landed at the entrance of the treehouse. He went straight in. A skinny old man sat in the middle of the wide hall. He had a head full of white hair and his face was covered with deep wrinkles. Chu Li fist saluted. "Wu Yuanci of the Flying Heavens sect greets Senior Feng. This is a letter from the sect leader." He took out the letter written by Zhao Lingfeng and handed it to him with both hands. The skinny old man opened his eyes and looked at him coldly. He took the letter and looked at it. He nodded. "Earth Demonic Stone. Too bad you're too late." Chu Li was stunned. He quickly asked, "Is the Earth Demonic Stone gone?" "No." The skinny old man sighed. "It's gone." Chapter 21-22. Chuli was shocked. Senior Feng, what do you mean? The Earth Demon Stone is gone. The skinny Feng Chongqing sighed. Young Wu, you're too late. Chuli said, the sect leader said that the Earth Demon Stone is with you. As long as I bring a letter here, I'll be able to get it. This Earth Demon Stone was meant for Brother Zhao, but it was stolen. Feng Chongqing shook his head and sighed. It's my fault. I can't face Brother Zhao. Chuli was stunned. Someone stole it? Feng Chongqing nodded slowly. The last time I came out of isolated cultivation, I was ambushed by a few people and the Earth Demon Stone was stolen. Chuli asked, someone else knows about the Earth Demon Stone? Feng Chongqing said slowly, I found this Earth Demon Stone when I was young. I've given it to Brother Zhao. Since he can't use it now, he left it for me to study. No one else knows about it except the two of us. Chuli looked at him in confusion. Feng Chongqing said, it's impossible that someone knew about the Earth Demon Stone and came to steal it. It's very likely that they stole it. However, the Great Dream Sect has many enemies. It's hard to tell which sect stole it. Can't you tell from their martial arts? Chuli asked. He was suspicious of Feng Chongqing. Since only the two of them knew about it, and Zhao Lingfeng could not have stolen it, the only suspect was Feng Chongqing. Feng Chongqing looked at Chuli and saw the suspicion in his eyes. He sighed. This is very strange. I'm the biggest suspect. Unfortunately, I can't prove my innocence. Chuli said, we should have told the sect leader about this earlier and asked him to help us get it back. These people are untraceable. Even the Great Dream Sect can't figure them out. How can we find them? Feng Chongqing said slowly. His face was tense and his eyes were cold. Chuli frowned. Are we just going to let it go? Feng Chongqing shook his head. We can only swallow this. Chuli said, no matter what, we should still tell the sect leader. I'll report back immediately. Sigh. Feng Chongqing said slowly. I'll personally go to the Flying Heaven sect and explain to Brother Zhao. Chuli nodded. Feng Chongqing pulled up his sleeve, and the two of them suddenly disappeared. The next moment, they appeared at the foot of the Flying Heaven sect's mountain. Chuli led him straight into the sect, and when they arrived at the basilica, they saw Zhao Lingfeng. When Zhao Lingfeng saw him, he was stunned for a moment before he cupped his fists and said with a smile, Brother Feng, you're a rare guest. Come, sit down and talk. Chuli gave a fist salute and excused himself. He returned to his courtyard with a solemn expression. This matter was a little strange. The status of the Great Dream Sect was not ordinary. It was similar to the heaven-shaking tower in the Beyond Heavens realm. Robbing the disciples of the Great Dream Sect was a huge risk. Even if they were masked and could not be seen clearly, they could still be found through the method of deduction. This was something that most people knew. These people knew that there were tigers in the mountains, but they still chose to go there. It was obvious that they were driven by a huge profit. What profit? It was the Earth Demon Stones. It was obvious that they had found out about the Earth Demon Stone. Logically speaking, there were only two people who knew about the Earth Demon Stone, and Zhao Lingfeng would not have revealed it to anyone else. However, from Feng Chongqing's expression, it did not seem likely. He could see through people's subtle expressions. Even if the omniscient mirror could not see through Feng Chongqing's mind, he could still determine that Feng Chongqing did not reveal anything through his subtle expressions and movements. Could it be Zhao Lingfeng? He pondered for a moment but did not rush to deny it. He could not see through the sect leader, Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng was extremely intelligent and shrewd. He had many tricks up his sleeves that could not be defended against. It was not easy for him to trick the Profound Heart sect. The Profound Heart sect was powerful not because of one person, but because of the heart method that they cultivated. Their minds were refined, and their thoughts were meticulous and complicated. All of the disciples were like this. When they gathered together to brainstorm, they would often plot against others, but rarely would they be plotted against. If it was not for the fact that their sect's martial arts were not strong enough, they would have been the most powerful sect in the world. However, such a powerful sect had been ruthlessly schemed against by the Flying Heavens sect. The sect protecting array had been broken, and they had charged straight into their lair to massacre them. It could be said that they had torn apart the Profound Heart sect's reputation. Zhao Lingfeng was the first person who had caused the Profound Heart sect to lose face like this. A moment later, footsteps were heard. A young disciple came to greet him. The sect leader had invited him in. When Chuli arrived at the basilica, Zhao Lingfeng was standing in front of the window with his hands behind his back. He seemed to be deep in thought and did not speak. Chuli Fist saluted and stood aside to look at him. After a while, Zhao Lingfeng turned to look at him and sighed. "UNC, what do you think?" Chuli shook his head. "It doesn't seem like Senior Feng leaked the information." "What do you think?" Zhao Lingfeng asked. Chuli nodded. Zhao Lingfeng nodded and said, "I feel the same way. I understand Brother Feng's character, and I trust him. However, the Earth Demon Stone has been stolen. This is somewhat strange." Chuli said, "Unfortunately, the Earth Demonic Stone is too mysterious, so there is no way to find it. Did the sect leader leave a mark on the stone so that we can find it?" If it was not for the Earth Demonic Stone's ability to conceal the secrets of the heavens, the Great Dream sect would have found it long ago. However, the Earth Demonic Stone could conceal the secrets of the heavens, so it was impossible to find it. Zhao Lingfeng shook his head and sighed. The Earth Demonic Stone is not an ordinary item. It's almost impossible to leave a mark on it. Forget it, it was a gift from Brother Feng. It's fine if it's lost. Chuli said, "Sect leader, this is related to my return to the Grandmaster's realm. Since you don't have the Earth Demonic Stone, you can forget about going to the Grandmaster's realm." Zhao Lingfeng shook his head. "It's too dangerous." Chuli smiled. "Does the senior in the City of Thousand Swords have an item like the Earth Demonic Stone?" Zhao Lingfeng shook his head. "Then you don't have to worry about it." Chuli did not tell them that he was proficient in the cloud slashing power and could evade detection. He was very interested in the Earth Demonic Stone and wanted to see what it was like. He might be able to enter the Azura boundary with it. Chuli said, "Sect leader, I want to track down the Earth Demonic Stone." "All right." Zhao Lingfeng agreed without hesitation. "But be careful. You almost got killed last time, didn't you?" Chuli smiled. "You really can't underestimate the Profound Heart sect. Go." Zhao Lingfeng said, "Remember not to offend anyone in the Demeng clan. Their disciples all have unfathomable abilities, and they can scheme against you without you even knowing it." Chuli nodded solemnly. He closed fist, saluted and disappeared in a flash. The next moment, he appeared at the foot of the mountain of the Great Dream sect. He saw the skinny Feng Chongqing standing there quietly as if waiting for someone. Feng Chongqing turned to look at him. "Let's go." Chuli looked at his expression and knew that he would not give up. He wanted to get to the bottom of the matter. The Great Dream sect was indeed worthy of its name. Feng Chongqing said calmly, "How do you want to investigate?" "I want to know where Senior Feng fell into the ambush." Chuli said, "Follow me," Feng Chongqing said. The two of them flashed once again and appeared in a forest. The surroundings were filled with ancient trees that were verdant and lush. Chapter 21-23. This is where I was ambushed. Feng Chongqing pointed to his surroundings, shook his head, and sighed. "I was too careless. I didn't think that there would be people lying in ambush here. More importantly, all of them concealed their auras, and they were actually able to hide from me. So, this group of people is definitely not ordinary." He was an elite disciple of the Great Dream sect. Not only was his martial arts outstanding, but his intuition was also better than most people. Almost no one could plot against him. This time, however, he had failed miserably and lost the Earth Demon Stone due to an unexpected turn of event. Chu Li asked, "They didn't kill you, Senior Feng?" Feng Chongqing frowned. "They only injured me and took the Earth Demon Stone and some spirit pills when I couldn't move. They didn't do anything else. It seems like they were here to rob me." Chu Li asked, "If that's the case, they might have met you by chance?" Feng Chongqing thought about it and sighed. "I've analyzed it many times and concluded that it was intentional. They seemed to know my whereabouts and purposely ambushed me here. It wasn't a coincidence." Chu Li frowned. "That's strange. How many people know your whereabouts? Could they be disciples from the same sect?" His expression changed as he looked at Feng Chongqing. Feng Chongqing shook his head. "No one in the sect knows my whereabouts. Even the sect leader doesn't know that I left the sect. The disciples of the Great Dream sect are free to leave the sect whenever they want." Chu Li said, "If that's the case, someone was guarding outside the sect and waited for you to leave the sect. Then, they set up an ambush here? They could also be tracking you. There are many secret techniques that can track you." Feng Chongqing scoffed. Based on what he knew, there were many secret techniques that could track someone without him knowing. Chu Li pondered. "I still think it's someone close to me." "Don't talk nonsense." Feng Chongqing frowned and glared at him. Chu Li smiled and closed fist saluted. "Senior Feng, please forgive me. It's just my intuition. Regardless of whether it's right or wrong, I have to investigate." "Impossible." Feng Chongqing shook his head. "The sect doesn't know that I have the Earth Demon Stone, and there's no need for them to steal it. If they really needed it, they could just tell Brother Zhao and use it for a while." Chu Li asked, "What if they want to take it for themselves? There's no need to fight for it." Feng Chongqing snorted and said, "Brother Zhao doesn't care about this, it's not a big deal to give it to them." Chu Li shook his head and said, "Senior Feng, since there are no clues from the outside, let's check inside the sect. Then there are even fewer clues." Feng Chongqing snorted. Chu Li smiled. "I'll go with my gut feeling then. I want to stay in the sect for half a month. If I don't have any clues after half a month, I'll let this matter go." "All right." Feng Chongqing hesitated for a moment before nodding slowly. Early in the morning, Chu Li descended from the treetop. The tips of his feet tapped lightly on the thick and soft leaf. His movements were light and agile. As he performed the flying demon technique, his body became more agile. With the circulation of his inner energy, he was able to borrow strength from the air without touching the ground. Chu Li suddenly realized that the flying demon technique was indeed worthy of its name. He could vaguely feel like he was flying, as if he had a pair of wings on his body, allowing him to soar freely in the sky. The more he practiced the flying demon technique, the more he could feel the feeling of flying. It was really mysterious and unusual. After practicing the flying demon technique for a while, he quietly sat down and activated the omniscient mirror. He carefully observed the entire Big Dream sect. There were only about 100 people in the Big Dream sect. Of course, other than the 9 basilicas that he could not spy on, he could clearly see the other disciples' courtyard. He carefully observed every disciple. Among the 100 disciples, there were 10 whose cultivation level was similar to his. The rest of the disciples were weaker than him. There was no one who was stronger than him. Liu Kuan, who provoked him before, was considered to have the highest cultivation level among them. The martial arts heart technique of the 100 disciples were all different. They all practiced the flower visualization in dreams technique. However, the rest of the martial arts were different. Some practiced swords, some practiced fist techniques, and some even practiced knife technique. Other than martial arts, they also practiced a strange heart technique. It was a mysterious technique similar to the heavenly heart technique. Once they started cultivating, they would become one with heaven and earth. Chu Li knew that this antique technique was used by them to predict the future. Unfortunately, once it was used, their bodies would be surrounded by a clear light. He could not see their bodies clearly, nor could he see the circulation of the heart technique. As for the flower visualization in dreams technique, he could see it clearly. There were new disciples cultivating. These disciples did not have any treasures with them. After all, they were low-level disciples. Chu could clearly see the circulation of their heart technique and the flower visualization in dreams technique. However, Chu did not cultivate it. He was only trying to predict it. He wanted to find the mystery of the flower visualization in dreams technique and find its weakness. Among the 100 disciples, there were 10 new disciples. They were all talented. Chu's focus was on these 10 disciples. He wanted to see how they would cultivate the antique technique of the Big Dream sect step by step. From there, he could understand the cultivation system of the Big Dream sect. The Big Dream sect might become his enemy in the future. These 10 disciples were naturally talented. Chu looked at them carefully. In the end, he found something strange. One of the disciples was covered by a layer of clear light. He could not see through it. At first, Chu thought that this disciple was someone with secret skills. He thought that he was a spy from another sect. That was why he looked at him carefully. However, he did not find anything strange. Logically speaking, a spy who just entered the sect would have some strange behavior. Even if he tried to hide it, he would not be able to hide it from his omniscient mirror. Subtle expressions and movements would always be exposed. However, there was nothing strange about this young man. Later on, he determined that the young man had a treasure on him that concealed his aura and details. He couldn't see through it, and others couldn't see through it either. But how could a young man who had just entered the sect have a treasure? Could it be that this young man had a treasure because of his high status? When he entered the wooden hut for breakfast, he asked about the young man's background. Yi Ching Song. Feng Chongqing stopped eating. He thought for a while and said, "He is a new disciple. I heard he is from the Yi family of Green River." Chu looked at him suspiciously. Feng Chongqing said, "The Yi family of Green River is considered a wealthy family. They have good qualifications. Masters Junior Yi is from the Yi family of Green River." Chu said, "So he has a treasure to protect himself at such a young age?" "It is inevitable." Feng Chongqing said, "The Yi family will not be stingy with those who enter the Dream sect." Chu nodded. He was still curious. He smiled and asked, "Can I meet this young Master Yi?" "Yes, just ask him to come." Feng Chongqing nodded. He raised his voice. "Yukuan." Song Yukuan quickly appeared. He closed fist saluted. Feng Chongqing said, "Ask Yi Ching Song to come see me." "Yes." Song Yukuan looked at Chu. He closed fist saluted and left. After a while, Song Yukuan came with a skinny young man. He was handsome. There was a cold aura between his eyebrows. He closed fist saluted. Feng Chongqing looked at Chu. Chu stepped forward and extended his hand. Chapter 21-24. Yi Ching Song took a step back and looked at him coldly. Chu smiled and said, "I'm Wu Yuanci. Brother Yi, why don't we help each other and exchange a few blows? I've just entered the sect, and I'm not good enough to spar with anyone." Yi Ching Song took another step back and said coldly, "Find someone else." Chu retracted his hand and sighed. "Brother Yi doesn't look like a beginner. Your aptitude is really impressive." Song Yukuan chuckled and shook his head. "Junior brother Yi's talent is so high that it is rare in the world. Young Master Wu, your cultivation level is higher now, but I estimate that junior brother Yi will catch up to you in less than a year." Chu smiled at him. "What about brother Song?" "Me," Song Yukuan shook his head. "I'm not as good, but I'm still better than you." Chu smiled. "Then we'll see. Brother Yi, if you have time, why don't we get to know each other and interact more? After all, working behind closed doors will affect your progress." I Ching Song nodded coldly, looking like he was 1,000 miles away. Chu Li did not mind at all and continued to smile. I heard that the Yi family is a famous family in Green Creek. Their disciples are really extraordinary. No wonder Brother Yi has such amazing aptitude. You flatter me. I Ching Song obviously did not want to talk to him anymore. Chu Li smiled. The Yi family must have a rich heritage for such a famous family. Brother Yi, you must have some treasures on you? No. I Ching Song flatly denied. Chu Li said, Brother Yi, that's not right. Why lie? I Ching Song looked at him and turned away, obviously not wanting to talk to him anymore. Chu Li shook his head and smiled at Song Yukuan. Song Yukuan frowned. You can tell that Brother Yi has a treasure? Of course. Chu Li grinned and said, the aura of treasures around him is sparkling and vibrant. Brother Song, can't you tell? Nonsense. Song Yukuan scoffed. Brother Yi doesn't have any treasure to protect himself. He was also someone who could see through treasures, but he couldn't see what kind of treasure I Ching Song had. Naturally, he didn't believe it. Chu Li sighed. Looks like Brother Song can't tell. He turned his head to look at Feng Chongqing. Senior Feng, you've noticed, right? No. Feng Chongqing shook his head gently and said, I can't see any trace of a treasure. You must be mistaken, Yuan Si. Oh? Chu Li said disapprovingly, how about we make a bet? What bet? Song Yukuan snorted. Chu Li smiled and said, let's see which of us has a better eye and whether Brother Yi has a treasure or not. Farewell. I Ching Song closed fist saluted and said in a deep voice, glaring coldly at Chu Li. Without waiting for Chu Li to reply, he turned around and walked out. Chu Li grinned as he looked at him, then at Song Yukuan and Feng Chongqing. He didn't go too far and didn't force him. He couldn't see through this I Ching Song and vaguely felt that something was off. Song Yukuan shook his head and said, Wu Yuanci, you are being a little unreasonable. Is it because you saw junior brother Yi's shocking aptitude that you went crazy with jealousy, so you took the opportunity to humiliate him? Chu Li could not help but laugh. Brother Song, you're underestimating me too much. However, this Brother Yi's talent is too shocking. Your sect has never met someone like him before, right? Of course. Song Yukuan said proudly, as long as a genius like him doesn't make any mistakes, he'll definitely become a top-notch person in the future. Wu Yuanci, you don't deserve to be junior brother Yi's opponent. Chu Li smiled. Then I shall congratulate your sect. Great Dream sect is lucky to have junior brother Yi, but your Flying Heaven sect isn't bad either. But be careful of Profound Heart sect, they're not easy to deal with. Song Yukuan scoffed. Of course. Chu Li nodded. Song Yukuan did not say anything else. He closed fist, saluted Feng Chongqing and floated away. Chu Li looked like he was deep in thought. Feng Chongqing said, Is there something wrong with I Ching Song? Chu Li said, Senior Feng, don't you think it's strange? Senior's cultivation level is shocking, you should be able to sense it. This I Ching Song's martial arts progress is too fast, and his aptitude is too nature-defying. It's really beyond imagination. Feng Chongqing slowly nodded. Such aptitude is indeed rare, but it's not like it doesn't exist. It's not surprising. Has Great Dream sect ever had someone like this? Chu Li asked. Feng Chongqing nodded. There have been a few people like this, and all of them were geniuses that revitalized the sect, allowing the sect leader to dominate the world. I see, I'm really ignorant. Chu Li closed fist saluted. He has a treasure with him? You can really tell? Feng Chongqing asked. Yes. Chu Li nodded. It's a little strange, so I'm curious to see what kind of treasure it is. This is a taboo. Feng Chongqing shook his head. Treasures are the foundation of survival. Once outsiders know about it, they'll put themselves in danger, so they won't let others know. Chu Li nodded. Feng Chongqing said, You're not suspecting that the Earth Demon Stone is with him, are you? He really did not know that I Ching Song had a treasure with him, so he was a little ashamed. However, he was also an intelligent person, and none of the Great Dream Sect's disciples were stupid. He immediately guessed Chu Li's suspicion and shook his head. That's impossible. Chu Li asked, why is it impossible? Feng Chongqing scoffed. Although the Yi family is strong, they won't dare to offend the sect. Even if there are 2 disciples in the sect, stealing my treasure is the same as destroying their own future. If this gets out, they won't be able to make a comeback. Although the Earth Demon Stone is good, it's not worth it. That's true. Chu Li slowly nodded. Feng Chongqing said, stop overthinking. Chu Li slowly shook his head. I have a gut feeling that the Earth Demon Stone is with him. Your gut feeling is wrong. Feng Chongqing shook his head. Maybe it's because I want it too much, that's why I'm hallucinating. Don't worry, I won't give up. I'll find the Earth Demon Stone. Chu Li smiled. If he could find it, he would not have delayed it until now. If he could not find it now, there was no hope left. He shook his head and closed fist saluted, then turned around and left the wooden house. The omniscient mirror was still on I Ching Song, watching his every move. After leaving the wooden house, I Ching Song did not care at all and continued to cultivate in his courtyard. In the evening, Song Yukuan appeared in the wooden house and closed fist saluted to report an order. It was an order to expel Chu Li from the Great Dream Sect. Feng Chongqing called Chu Li over and announced the order helplessly. Chu Li looked at the 2 of them, surprised. Feng Chongqing sighed. UNC, there's no other way. The sect leader has ordered that you have to leave. You can't stay in the inner or near the sect anymore, or else it'll be seen as a provocation to the sect. Chu Li frowned at Feng Chongqing, then at Song Yukuan, and shook his head. Ridiculous. Song Yukuan sneered. Wu UNC, you're a smart man, you should know the reason. Chu Li frowned. Just because I provoked I Ching Song, I'm expelled from the sect? That's right. Song Yukuan nodded. With junior brother Yi's status, he will not allow anyone to disturb his cultivation, distract him, and hinder his advancement in cultivation. Chu Li laughed and shook his head. That's 2. Chapter 21-25. Chu Li's expression darkened. Feng Chongqing said, Yukuan, don't spout nonsense. Song Yukuan sneered and said, Senior brother Feng, am I wrong? Why do you have to make it sound so bad? Feng Chongqing said, the sect is too worried about junior brother I, that's why it's like this. UNC has no ill intentions, I'm just curious. That's none of my business. Song Yukuan said, even if you're curious, you have to go outside the sect. Please leave now. Wu UNC, since the sect leader has given an order, you can't go against it. Are you still going to stay here? Chu Li sighed and shook his head. Fine, if that's the case, I'll leave. Feng Chongqing hesitated and sighed. UNC, it's good that you leave first. Don't worry, I'll continue to investigate that matter and give Brother Zhao an explanation. The sect leader is very protective of junior brother I. After all, he has such potential and a bright future. Please don't take it to heart. Chu Li fist saluted. I dare not. He looked at Song Yukuan. Brother Song, I have something to say to Senior Feng, please excuse me. Leave the sect before today, or don't blame us for being rude. Song Yukuan said. Chu Li said, don't worry. Song Yukuan curled his lips in disdain and fluttered away. Chu Li took a deep breath and wanted to slap Song Yukuan again, but he restrained himself and calmed his anger. Senior Feng, I'll leave now. I'm sorry. I'll apologize to Brother Zhao. Feng Chongqing said apologetically, it's not a big deal. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. Actually, it's not a big deal. It's just a small matter, but this young master UNC, don't say anything about junior brother I. Feng Chongqing shook his head. This is the sect leader's warning. Even I can't touch junior brother E or cause him trouble or I'll be punished. Chu Li raised his eyebrows. Is that the only way? Feng Chongqing nodded slowly. Let's slow down for now. If the Earth Demon Stone is really with junior brother E, I have my ways to test it out. I'll have to trouble you then, Senior Feng, Chu Li said. Feng Chongqing said sternly, Yuan Si, you must never provoke junior brother E again. Otherwise, given the sect master's temper, he will definitely not let you off easily. You won't be able to withstand his wrath. Chu Li smiled. You're not going to kill me, are you? Very likely, Feng Chongqing said solemnly. Chu Li was startled and slowly nodded. It was only then that he felt the domineering and imposing manner of the Great Dream sect. It was indeed worthy of its reputation. It was even better than the Sword Demon sect. He felt humiliated. Even though he was only impersonating Wu Yuanxi and not a member of the Flying Heaven sect, he still felt angry. His martial arts and strength were not taken seriously at all, and he allowed himself to be punished as he pleased. He had originally planned to attack secretly to find out if I Ching Song had the Earth Demonic Stone. However, according to Feng Chongqing, if he really did that, he would definitely be hunted down by the Great Dream sect. The Great Dream sect was like the heaven-shaking pavilion, able to see through the mysteries of the heavens. Once they set their eyes on him and used all their strength to deduce and investigate him, they might be able to find out his background. At that time, he would lose more than he gained. He thought about it and felt that he should be more careful. He should not go against the Great Dream sect directly. He could only bear with it for now and find a chance to take revenge in the future. If he attacked now, he would not stand a chance. Yuan Si, let me send you back, Feng Chongqing said. The Profound Heart sect is hunting you. Be careful. Chu Li Fist saluted. Thank you, Senior Feng. He knew that Feng Chongqing was worried that he would cause trouble for I Ching Song in private. That was why he had to escort him back. He was worried that Chu Li would be swayed by his emotions and would not be able to take it anymore. The two left the sect and suddenly disappeared. The next moment, they appeared at the foot of the mountain of the Flying Heaven sect and entered the sect again. The two went straight to the basilica. Zhao Lingfeng appeared at the entrance of the basilica and gestured for them to enter. Feng Chongqing Fist saluted and apologized. He told him what happened. Zhao Lingfeng smiled and shook his head. It seems that sect leader Qing has found a good disciple. Yes. Feng Chongqing sighed. Junior brother Yi's aptitude is very rare. 1 day of cultivation is equivalent to 10 days of cultivation for us. He has improved by leaps and bounds. I don't think he will surpass us in a year. Zhao Lingfeng stood with his hands behind his back and smiled. I really want to meet this genius. I'm afraid the sect leader will not let you meet him. Feng Chongqing smiled. He is a secret and will never show it to others. Otherwise, accidents will happen. That's true. Zhao Lingfeng smiled. If I had such a genius, I would be careful too. Yuan Si, you have touched sect leader Cheng's reverse scale. No wonder he chased you out. Sect leader Cheng's temper is like that. Feng Chongqing shook his head and smiled bitterly. No one can change his mind. Brother Zhao, please don't take it to heart. Even if I take it to heart, I won't dare to do anything to sect leader Cheng. He is certain of this. Zhao Lingfeng shook his head and waved his hand. But this does not affect our friendship. Brother Feng, let's forget about the Earth Demon Stone. You don't have to investigate further. Feng Chongqing looked at him in surprise. Zhao Lingfeng said, This was originally yours. You just gave it to me. If it's gone, then it's gone. It's not fated with me and I can't force it. Don't investigate further. Just pretend the Earth Demon Stone never appeared. Brother Zhao. Feng Chongqing slowly shook his head. I am not a man of my word. Zhao Lingfeng frowned and said, Brother Feng, if you still treat me as a friend, then this matter will end here. How can I do that? Feng Chongqing smiled bitterly. Zhao Lingfeng said, a man should be more straightforward and be able to let go of things. There's no need to dwell on what you lost and disturb your own cultivation. From now on, there's no need to mention this matter. Just pretend it never happened. If you feel bad about it, you can give me another treasure. All right. Feng Chongqing smiled bitterly. He was grateful. Zhao Lingfeng's breadth of mind was not something he could match. Chu Li smiled. What other treasures do you have, Senior Feng? What kind of treasure do you want? Feng Chongqing asked. He felt very apologetic towards Chu Li. The Earth Demon Stone was originally meant for Chu Li, but he had lost it. He had even been chased away by the sect leader. Even though he had been humiliated, Feng Chongqing was still able to endure it with a smile. After some thought, Feng Chongqing said, I have another treasure. He took out a small black cloth bag and tossed it to Chu Li. Chu Li quickly reached out and caught it. He looked at Zhao Lingfeng. Zhao Lingfeng nodded and smiled. I dare not refuse a gift from an elder. Since Brother Feng is giving it to you, just accept it. Let's see what it is. Chu Li Fist saluted Feng Chongqing and opened the black cloth bag. He took out a purple orb that was about the size of a longan. It glowed faintly as if it contained purple water that was slowly flowing. Chu Li looked at Feng Chongqing with a questioning look. Feng Chongqing said, This is the sky-connecting orb. What does it do? Zhao Lingfeng asked with a smile as he carefully examined the purple orb. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.